to.
Come on in. There's so many seats at the front.
There's a lot of...
Please come and fill them up. Are you saving seats for people? I'm going to give them demerits for not being here. Unacceptable. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
Welcome to day 2 of
It's my face.
Motse.
It's okay.
Okay, this side is alive. This side is definitely hasn't had
Guys,
coffee.
don't let me down.
Yeah.
Good morning, village people. Yes.
There we go.
Is the coffee not strong enough? Must I ask them to double shot it for day 2? Come on. It's so great to see all of you guys here again today. I actually woke up excited to see the same room of people again. This never happens. My family doesn't know what that feels like, so they're like, what did these people do to you? Why are you happy to see 2 people 2 days in a row? So I'm very, very excited to be part of the village. I know traffic was a bit tight today, so thank you all for making the effort to be here as early as you possibly could. Yesterday was an absolutely fantastic day, Seth, don't you think?
It was absolutely incredible. So much learning, so much connection.
Yeah.
If you didn't leave with a phone number, a solution solved, you are the problem. You are the problem. So I want to encourage you to really connect. Like I mentioned yesterday, the problem you're trying to solve is seated next to you. Someone has a solution for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yesterday was about connection and getting to know each other, and it was so fantastic. I think the team put up such a great program yesterday. Can we please give a round of applause to the events team and the managing team? That cocktail that we had yesterday, the awards that we had, absolutely stunning. We had such a great time connecting and coming together, and that is important because for the work that we want to do today, which is where we move into the action and the scaling, it's important for us to have built that trust and that relationship in the ecosystem and the understanding of what we're here to do together so that today we can move into action mode. So is everyone happy and excited and ready for action mode?
Yes.
Yes, action mode, fantastic. So because we're starting a little bit late, we wanted to do reflections of the day, but we're going to move that to a little bit after the session because we really want to get into our first speaker. He's online. It's the middle of the night where he is in the world trying to join us. It's midnight. And so we don't want to we can't send him Motse coffee, but we want to make sure that we get into him, and then we're going to spend some time together doing reflections and going through what we need to do for the day. But really excited to create some more Motse moments. So
before we get there, thank you for those who came today. Did you get your book?
Yes.
Amazing, right?
Aren't you happy you came?
Thank you to Ellen and Jogre Philanthropy South Africa. And just to throw forward, one of the masterclasses, the author is going to be sharing more about this work, so I encourage you to check that out, Catherine Weinberg. So today we're going to have a lot of action-orientated sessions.
Yeah.
We're talking about scale, we're talking about impact. If you didn't know, scale is not scaling your solution. Scale is reducing the size of the problem, all right?
That's it.
There, you got, that's a free masterclass on its own. I'll send you the invoice later, or I'll actually send Nyakalo, where's Nyakalo Mirafe, to do a scale session with you. There she is. Excellent. So I think we can throw forward to Alicia, our, who's going to do the introduction to Victor Wong. Can we give her a round of applause?
Yeah, give a round of applause to Alicia. She'll also be facilitating the session. Enjoy. We're really looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. You all look amazing. Thank you so much to the fabulous hosts. I'm hoping that you're all excited. So I'm going to be introducing our panel, our speaker today, and as we've mentioned, he is joining us virtually from LA. So it is midnight in his time zone, so I hope that you'll be kind to him as well. But he's very kindly agreed to grace us with his presence. So he's going to be talking, the title of his talk is Developing Regional Models for Startup Cities and Entrepreneurial Districts. So Victor Wong is a renowned economic growth expert, an ecosystem builder who has dedicated his career to place-based entrepreneurial ecosystem building. So you may have heard this phrase yesterday around place-based entrepreneurship or ecosystem building. And the reason why we are championing this approach is because we know that entrepreneurship ecosystems are not uniform. So each place has its own unique geographies, cultures, institutions that shape how entrepreneurship takes root in that specific context. So this place-based approach is essential because it tailors the strategies that we use to build entrepreneurial ecosystems to local contexts. And Victor is an expert in how you do this effectively. So he is globally recognized as a leader in building entrepreneurial ecosystems. He has helped shape millions of lives and over 300 communities and countries, and helps them to innovate and to unlock growth in entrepreneurial ecosystems. He is the founder of The Right to Start, and he works to make entrepreneurship accessible to all, from policymakers and to local makers. So previously he was at the Kaufman Foundation, where he ran initiatives that reached around 200,000 entrepreneurs, and he has inspired major policy reforms across the United States. So he really is an expert, and I hope that we will benefit from what he has to share today. He also has an award-winning book named The Rainforest, The Secret to Building the Next Silicon Valley, which I hope that you will look up after this session. So please join me in welcoming our visionary ecosystem builder, Victor Wang.
Well, thank you, Alicia. Thank you to everybody there. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to meet you. It is midnight here in Los Angeles, but I feel the energy from a great early morning for all of you out there. I wish I had some coffee with me right now as well. So I'm very pleased to talk with you about regional models for building entrepreneurial ecosystems. I know this is the topic of the day, and I'm very pleased to share with you a lot of things I've learned along the way, and I'm going to provide you some tools and training. I'm going to share some stories. I'm going to share some data and research for you. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have some takeaways that you can use in your work to help build South Africa's entrepreneurial ecosystem. So the next slide. There you go. This is me. Hello. I have, as Alicia was mentioning, I've come from a background in entrepreneurial ecosystem building. I've been doing this work in some way, shape, or form for over 25 years now. And so I've been an entrepreneur myself. I've invested in startups. I've run entrepreneurial support organizations. I've worked in philanthropy. As Alicia mentioned, I ran the Kaufman Foundation's entrepreneurship department. And as part of that, I actually got to visit South Africa a few years back when you all hosted the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. And I had a wonderful experience there, and I hope to make it back again someday. But I've also done work in capital formation. I was an investor in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and I've done work in global development consulting. I've helped countries and cities and regions develop their entrepreneurial strategies. And so I've seen this work from almost every angle, and I've come to learn things and insights that I'm very pleased to share with you along the way. So on the next slide, a little bit about my background and how I even got into this work. On the next slide, these are my parents. So my parents came to the United States as immigrants. They came with $300 and 2 bags of laundries. And they came to really try to build the American dream. They wanted to build a better life for themselves and their future children. I wasn't even born yet. When I was lucky enough in high school, I was lucky enough to be able to get into Harvard as a young man, but they could not afford to send me. And so one of the things they did is they took out a second mortgage on their house. So they bet everything they owned on sending me to college. The second thing they did is they started a business, and the business started on the weekends and the evenings and eventually grew and succeeded enough to be able to afford to pay for college for myself and my sister and build a retirement for themselves. And so I've seen the power of entrepreneurship, but I also saw the difficulty of it. I saw how hard it was for them, people who really had no idea how to start something and build something. This is them early on in the life of the company. The company was named Victina, which is a combination of my name and my sister's name, Tina. And so it always stuck with me that it felt like the playing field wasn't level. It was actually really hard for certain people to start businesses. And meanwhile, when I grew up, I realized some people just seemed to know how to do this. This was just a very natural thing, and they had access to all kinds of resources and knowledge and people to be able to do this. So fast forward in my life, I really came to realize that this actually became a calling of mine, that one could actually fight to try to level the playing field for everybody. So people knew that people that wanted to start something and build something and aspired to do something could have a shot to be able to do it themselves, so that there was always a path for people that wanted to try to create their own version of prosperity, their own version of a good life. On the next slide, we can ask this fundamental question then. So if you think about the lessons that we learn from entrepreneurship, and I'm going to tell you about some of the power of the data that shows the power of entrepreneurship, how do we create broad economic prosperity in South Africa? And this is a question I'm really excited to explore with you here today, because it's a question that has there's a lot of nuance to this, and hopefully you'll be able to learn some new ideas and new perspectives on how you can do this. Next slide. So some of you may recognize an image like this. Does this strike you? Obviously, this is the David and Goliath image of the little person fighting the big Goliath, the big giant. And this is kind of the typical entrepreneur. Those of you that have ever started businesses or worked with entrepreneurs, you know this is very familiar, the sense that you're always up against a giant force. It always feels like it's very daunting. And this is actually how economies and countries and cities and states and regions have actually done economic development for a long time, which is they focused on the Goliaths. They focused on the giants. And if you think about how economic development is largely done, it's done by recruiting large companies, giving them subsidies, giving them incentives, giving them all the benefits, giving them training programs. The big companies get all the benefits, all the resources that a society provides to help them grow. But if you're trying to start something new, that's little, that's very fragile, you don't get the same thing. But here's the interesting irony of all that, which is the research now that's come out shows that it's actually not the Goliaths that matter in creating prosperity. Prosperity actually comes from the Davids. Go to the next slide. In fact, we know that 1,000 Davids beat Goliath. In fact, in one city in America I work with in Kansas City, they found that one big corporation, they were going to spend billions of dollars to try to recruit one big corporation that was going to generate about 50,000 jobs, which was huge. But they didn't even know, and people don't even think about this, but the entrepreneurs generate about 80,000 jobs in that same period of time. And so the new young businesses, the people that are trying to build things, are actually driving the jobs at a time when the big companies actually are not nearly as effective. And so it's always the stuff that comes bottom up. So if you think about where do new ideas come from? Where does value come from? How do communities grow? It's always, in the end, and the aggregate, it's from the bottom up. And those are the Davids, not the Goliaths. If you go to the next slide, this is a living example of what this looks like. So I don't know, any of you recognize this picture at all? This is the HP garage. This is actually where Silicon Valley started. And it's actually a little tiny museum today, HP being Hewlett Packard, which became a very big company later. But it started in a garage. And when I lived in Silicon Valley for about a decade, it always struck me that something that's so big and something that could change the world started so modestly. And this is the nature of startups and entrepreneurship and little Davids, which is they're very modest. In fact, you think about all the impact of the companies that have come out of the Valley, it really started in this little tiny place. And in fact, HP later on would come up with its own idea of what made the garage happen, and they'd create their own mythology around the garage. And you can still visit this today if you ever visit Silicon Valley. And so that idea that the garage is powerful, that you can have a small group of people that actually can transform the world, can build wonderful things, means that it's actually not the Goliath. It's actually, you don't have to start large. It's actually, you start very small. But it raises the question of what is it that makes it work? How do you actually start really small? And how does something so small have such huge effects across the world? So if we're thinking about regional models of development, how do you transform South Africa's entrepreneurial ecosystem? It raises this question of what made that work. How did Silicon Valley start in such a tiny little modest way? The next slide. And this matters because entrepreneurs and the people that want to be able to participate in the economy are everybody. They come from all walks of life. They come from all ages and races and backgrounds. And so much of what we think of as economic growth or economic development tends to be from certain types of categories of society. But if you really look at where the growth comes from at large, it really needs to be broad-based and highly inclusive and bring in people from many different perspectives and walks of life. And it's not just tech businesses per se. It's not just tech startups, which is what a lot of economic development has focused on for the last several decades. It really can be anything. And some of the great stories I think about Mr. Kaufman, who started the Kaufman Foundation. He, by the 1980s, he had built a $6 billion pharmaceutical company. But people forget that back in 1950, he started his company selling vitamins from the back of his car. He would even grind up little oyster shells at home and use those oyster shells and put them into tablets to sell them as calcium supplements. And so great big things can start very, very small, and you never know where it's going to come from. On the next slide, you can actually see this in the data. So this is very powerful data, and this comes out of the National Bureau of Economic Research, and this was used in the Kaufman Foundation's research when I was there. And it shows where the net job growth comes from over time. And this is the United States data, but this is also replicated in different ways in different countries as well. And I've followed that economic research. But you can see in this chart, it takes a little bit of analysis, but that blue line is for the young businesses. These are businesses that are younger than 5 years. The red line is for middle-aged businesses, and the gray line is for old companies. And if you look, it's actually above zero for almost 2 decades. The blue line, consistently net job creation, that is more than 0 jobs, are always from the young businesses. It's always the young businesses that are creating almost all the net job growth in the economy. And it's the older businesses, in fact, the older the business, the more they shed jobs in the hard times. And that actually fits our common sense understanding of the world. When the economy gets rough, we see the big companies slash jobs. They never actually hire those people back. And that's the nature of what big companies do. Their jobs to become more lean and more efficient over time. It's the young companies that actually build new things, they build new jobs, and they actually drive the economy forward. This is not well known, by the way. Most, even people in economics, even leaders of countries. So one of my close colleagues right now used to be the head of policy for the White House in the United States. And he did not even know this until we introduced it to him. And so this is actually a surprising thing that most people don't know, which is that almost all net job growth comes from new and young businesses. And so when people ask you, where does job growth come from? And they start talking about big companies, you tell them it's actually not the big companies. It's the new and young little businesses that are emerging. It's the Davids, not the Goliaths. Next slide. And on the next slide, you can see it's job growth and more. It's also the source of GDP. So entrepreneurs, little businesses are the source of GDP for the entire economy. They help overcome inequality. That is, the more entrepreneurship goes up, the more inequality goes down. They raise incomes. Within the research shows that entrepreneurs, people that start businesses, make more income over their lifetimes, about 10% more income, and that more entrepreneurial activity at the local level increases the household wealth across the entire region. And this is actually in the United States. They found that a 1% increase in entrepreneurial activity in a county raises the average income in the entire county by about $500 per household in the United States. And you can see similar data that replicates that kind of model in other parts of the world as well. It also raises community wealth. So for when entrepreneurs are more successful, it actually generates wealth across an entire community, and they help fight poverty. At least in the United States, but we've seen this similarly in other places. For every 1% increase in entrepreneurship in the US, there's a corresponding 2% decrease in the poverty rate in the entire state. So entrepreneurial activity actually helps fight poverty, which is not a well-known thing, but the data shows that this is actually true. This is what actually happens. And so you'd wonder, why doesn't entrepreneurship get talked about more? Well, it's because entrepreneurs, and we know entrepreneurs, or we are entrepreneurs, we're just too busy. We're too busy hustling. We don't have money. We don't have time to speak up for ourselves. The big companies will they can hire lobbyists. They can hire marketing firms. They speak up. But the entrepreneurs, the little Davids, are the ones that actually drive all this growth and all this prosperity in the economy. Next slide. So what is it we have to do? How do we actually cause entrepreneurship to happen at scale? What is the model that lets us do this effectively? Next slide. And so I'm going to sort of shift the way we think, because normally when we think about economies, we tend to think of the masses. We think of large crowds of people. And this is the way that economists think about it, which is that people are kind of, the individuals are kind of irrelevant when you think about it. We're in fact, the way that economists make decisions about the economy, they treat us as kind of replaceable. Like if a company fires these people, they'll just replace it with these other people, right? They're talking about this a lot with AI. Well, AI will shed these jobs here, but those people will find new jobs somehow. That feels like it's sort of cutting corners, because there's actually a lot of people that are affected when these things happen. So what happens to the individual level? So the key is to go from this big level to think about economics and economies from a much smaller scale. So on the next slide, this is how I like to think about it. So if you think about it from like the level of an entire forest, you can actually see it from the treetops. And so from the treetop level, you can actually start to realize that if you sort of remove people from the equation, that looking at the treetops, you realize that trees don't grow just en masse. They actually are made up of lots of individual trees. And so the view from the treetops doesn't really tell you much about how to create a great forest. You actually have to go down into the forest. So next slide, we're going to go fly down into the forest. And so this is what the forests look like. This is actually the redwood forests of California, where I am right now. And in the redwood forest, this is looking up. These are some of the tallest and oldest trees in the world. You can actually see the individual. You can see the individual trees, and you realize that each individual tree has its own life and its own needs and its own issues it deals with. Each of them has to face a different condition of light. Each of them deals with different issues of shade. Each of them deals with different issues of water. Every tree is unique and different. Next slide. And if you get even further in, if you think about where does a tree even come from, and you actually unpack one of the cones with the pods of seeds in it, you can actually see this. Each one of these seeds, if you actually go to the next, actually see these seeds. Each one of these seeds can turn into a redwood tree. On the next slide, you can see these individual seeds. And over the course of 100 years, a redwood tree will produce about 1 billion of these seeds. And all it takes for the forest to continue to thrive is that one of these seeds actually makes it. That one of these seeds actually has to be able to survive and propagate and keep the forest going. What's really interesting about redwood forests, though, is that each of these trees within the forest is competing against the other trees. They're fighting for light, they're fighting for water, they're fighting for nutrients. But even though they're fighting, they actually have to do something to survive mutually. They actually lock their roots together to survive, because in the redwood forest, the roots are very shallow. That is, if the wind is strong, it blows the trees down. So even though the trees compete against each other, they actually have to connect and support each other. Their roots are wound together in mutual connection, which is very, very similar to how people work, right? We often compete against each other for all kinds of things, but then we also need each other very deeply. So we're both competing and cooperative all at the same time. So if you go to the next slide, you can actually see the people. So when we think of seeds and individual seeds, I don't think of redwood trees necessarily from just the big tree that you see, which is the obvious thing that people see, but you think of it as the individual little thing. And so this is very similar to how startup companies are born. Like when a new business is born, it's just people sitting around, usually in a very modest situation. It's usually people sitting in a co-working space or a coffee shop or someone's living room. So let's think about it this way. So if we think about what does it take to activate the seeds, the people sitting in a small environment like that want to actually start something and build something, to start a new enterprise, to start a new company. How do new ideas get born and turn into businesses? The next slide. And the analogy we like to use is the difference between rainforests and farms. And this will give you clarity on the regional model for how you can actually think about it. So in a rainforest, you have everything grows. It's like a rich, diverse ecosystem with lots of plants and animals that all interact with each other. And on a farm, you grow one thing. You know one thing very, very clearly. And on a farm, your job is to grow lots of that one thing. So if you're trying to grow wheat, you grow lots and lots of that wheat. And you want to maximize the production of the wheat. And if you get something other than wheat on a farm, let's say you get a weed that pops up on a farm, what do you do with that weed? Well, you kill it. You don't want anything that's not wheat on that farm. You just want to kill the weeds. But in a rainforest, ask yourself, what's a weed in a rainforest? Well, everything's a weed in a rainforest because you never know what's going to grow. And so real entrepreneurial economies are like rainforests, not farms. Because in a farm, you know exactly what you want in advance. In a rainforest, you don't know what you're going to get until you give it a chance to grow. And that you have to give everything a chance to be able to grow. So on a farm, you control it very, very precisely, which is what large companies do. It's what governments try to do typically when they do economic development. But what we want to do is to shift from thinking about economies and ecosystems as farms and shift them into thinking of them like rainforests. And in a rainforest, everything has the potential to become really valuable. You never know, the most valuable plant in the entire forest could be that little tiny thing that's growing out of the corner of that little rock right now. And the way to grow a rainforest is not by planting lots of crops. The way to grow a rainforest is you shape the environment. It's the sunlight, it's the nutrients in the soil, it's the water, it's how all the plants and animals in the rainforest interact with one another. And so that's a very different approach, which is you shape the environment as a whole, and then you let the plants grow, which is different from the farm, which is the traditional model of economic development and planning. And a lot of regions that do entrepreneurial support, their biggest mistake is they think it's like a giant farm, and that all you have to do is plant startup companies. But it's really not. You actually have to think of it like planting a rainforest. And when they plant a rainforest, in real life, they've tried to plant rainforest where they plant lots of trees. And what happens? The trees die within a year or two, very quickly. You actually have to shape the whole environment. Everything is all connected all at the same time. So the next slide is the whole rainforest. And go to the next slide after that. You can see the whole ecosystem is everything. So it's not just a few pieces of it. You can't just say, we're going to create one aspect of it, capital, a new fund, or we're just going to help tell stories about entrepreneurs, or we're going to create real estate. You actually have to think of all of it together. It's the money, it's the talent, it's the coaches, it's the role of academia, it's the support services from business, it's the supply chains and the markets, it's the news, it's the role of culture, it's the role of real estate, education, workforce, trade and industry, government, the role of ideas and inventions and how they flow across an entire economy. How all those things interact is actually what drives the ecosystem. So that probably raises the question of, well, how can you possibly do everything all at one time? Well, that's the challenge. You have to, because that's the nature of building entrepreneurship successfully at scale. And that's actually how economies become very robust. I'll give you an example in real life. So the next slide is actually real data that comes from analyzing. This was about, 13 years ago now, in the next slide. And you can see this was 4 different cities in the United States. And these are 2 of the best researchers in entrepreneurship. And they looked at this question of, what do the social networks look like? How do people organize? That is, how do those teams, I showed the picture of the small seeds, the little teams that are organizing. And these are teams of people building startup companies in different economies. And you can see on the left side, you have places like Phoenix, and then everyone is in these little clusters, right? The entrepreneurs, the little startup companies are spread out. They're all disconnected. They're far away from each other. Some people know each other, but most people don't know each other. And you move to the right and you get to Seattle. It's more connected together. There's a lot more people that know each other. They're organizing together. They're sharing relationships. They're sharing ideas. They're pooling together their resources to try to build something. And then you get to Boston, and then you see things get much tighter together. There's a lot more integration. People share more. They build more companies together. There's a freer flowing rainforest between all the different people in the system. And on the right, you see Silicon Valley. And this is what has made Silicon Valley so successful, which is it's this giant ball of everything, everybody interconnecting all the time with ideas, with resources, with new stories, with new enterprises, with capital. It's that robust ecosystem that connects everything together that drives the Silicon Valley. And the research bears it out. In fact, there's some great research that just talks about even the people in Silicon Valley going back all the way to the 1970s and the 1960s. They thought like this. They thought their philosophy, the way they even approached the work they did, was all about how do you make connections, how do you share, how do you actually pursue innovation without all these different boundaries. They looked a lot like more on the right than they do on the left. So the next slide. So one of the things I did is when I was at Valley, I worked with friends, including at Stanford and other places, to try to understand the culture. What is it about a place like Silicon Valley that causes innovation and entrepreneurship to happen so powerfully? and we're able to break it up into 7 discrete cultural behaviors that you can actually see. And I've talked to people who've been in highly innovative and strong entrepreneurial environments all around the world, and these types of behaviors happen everywhere. So these are the 7 rules of the rainforest. These are the cultural patterns that have to exist when innovation is able to thrive. So one is to break rules and dream, which is thinking about what doesn't exist right now and how can we create something new that doesn't exist. Don't be held back necessarily by what's been done before, but think about what can happen new. 2, open doors and listen. That is, be open-minded to new ideas and new people everywhere you go. In fact, if you look at the founding of some of the great companies, even Apple or Uber or Facebook, they were people that did not look like they were going to be obviously what they later became. In the beginning, everything starts small. I mentioned the story of Mr. Kaufman starting the vitamin sales that later became a $6 billion pharmaceutical company. You just never know. So you have to open your doors, you have to listen, you have to be very open-minded to what's possible. 3, trust and be trusted. That is, be willing to trust people and receive trust in return. And that trust, when it replicates the whole system, breaks down all the barriers for people to be able to work together. And what I've seen now in entrepreneurial communities all across the world is that they build these high trust environments where people know each other really well, where they trust each other very highly, because that makes things much, much faster. And in slower economies that are more that have a lot more baggage on them, that are slower, there's a lot of distrust. 4, seek fairness, not advantage. And this was one thing I learned in this work for the last 25 years, which is the most successful investors, for instance, are actually those that don't try to win and beat the entrepreneur when they invest in the company. They try to build a fair relationship that continues to motivate and sustain the entrepreneur. And so how do you build fairness, not just try to take advantage? Because people in positions of power often try to take as much as they can. But in environments where you focus on entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial process, you actually are not trying to win all the time. You're actually trying to build relationships that can last for a long time. 5, experiment and iterate together. That is, try things out and keep trying. You never know what's going to work. Number 6, err, fail, and persist. Something might not work. It's okay. Failure is perfectly an acceptable outcome of something that was tried. Excuse me. But you try again, and you try to do things differently and keep going. And number 7, pay it forward. That is, be willing to help people in the ecosystem. This is actually something that doesn't come naturally to everybody. Excuse me. But being willing to pay it forward, instead of waiting for people to give you something before you give it to them, be willing to give it to them, and in some way or another, it's going to come back around later in the ecosystem. So these are the 7 rules of the rainforest, and that's a lot to remember, but the next slide will actually make it even simpler. On the next slide, you can see how this simplifies down to just words. So I took each of the rules and made it into one word. So openness, diversity, serendipity, fairness, experimentation, play, and giving. These are the values that actually drive entrepreneurial ecosystems. And when you look at regions and communities that have strong entrepreneurial sectors, they have these values that they hold. So the next slide. A place like Silicon Valley then isn't a place at all. It's a state of mind. And I would argue this is what I've seen everywhere in regions all over the world, which is states of mind actually they underlie successful entrepreneurial ecosystems. They're actually at the roots of all of it. And the next slide, I'll show you what this looks like in Silicon Valley itself. This is actually a class at Stanford that is the oldest design class probably existing still in the world. It's called Mechanical Engineering 310, and I know some of the people in that picture. But this is a class that basically kind of invented the concept of design thinking, even before it was called design thinking. And if you look at the classroom, the question to ask is, does this look like a rainforest, or does this look like a farm? And it looks like a rainforest, right? It's messy, it's chaotic. There's people gathered around together, working on a problem together that probably don't know each other all that well, before the start of a semester. And they've learned to actually create teams that are very dynamic, and they create environments that actually shape that entrepreneurial process. So this is where the physical manifestation of the classroom, the design thinking process, replicates the values we're talking about, and it replicates the entrepreneurial, the rules of the rainforest I just went over. Okay, so next slide. So how do we take culture then? So I think the question you're probably still asking is, all right, Victor, I understand. Culture is underlying ecosystems, and we have to we have to engineer it for serendipity. We have to build rainforests and not farms. Well, what do we do? And so the question is, how do you create 1,000 Davids? How do you actually build this at scale? And the first part, the answer is actually pretty simple, which is you yourself can be David number one. In fact, that is actually how people learn. And that's actually how people shape their behavior, which is we model our behavior in other people. And every great ecosystem, every great movement, every great economic transformation was led by people who just said, I am David too. I am David number one. And the next slide, you can build your own rainforest. And so it's achievable. And so I'll share some resources for you, and then I'll go into some of the tools that you can do it with. So the next slide. If you go onto my website there, victorh.co, you can actually download some of these resources. A couple of these books are free, and there's that rainforest canvas in the middle, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, and I'll go into more depth with that. And then the book on the left is the bigger rainforest, and then there's these other tools for you. But the canvas is free, and it's actually a great resource for you to use. So if you go to the next slide, I can show you what the canvas. And so a lot of you may be familiar with the startup canvas or the lean startup process. Well, we created a rainforest canvas to help build ecosystems, and this was many years ago, and this has held up pretty well. And this has been done all over the world, where people have actually used this in group settings and in communities and ecosystems to try to map out how the different parts of the ecosystem flow together. And so you can see from the very bottom, you have culture on the right, bottom right, and then you have the infrastructure, the capability, and the community. And those are the sort of the core, they're the roots upon which everything grows up. And then those flow into resources, activities, engagement, and role models. And those flow up into the leaders, the stakeholders, and the frameworks. And so what you can do is within communities, you can find ways to map that, and you can actually use this canvas as a free tool to let you map out different parts of the ecosystem and understand how all these different parts fit together. And what happens is in the process of doing so, you come up with new ways to think about how to activate the ecosystem, the rainforest, all these different interrelated parts of the rainforest into one larger economic model. On the next slide, you can see what we did. There's prompt questions in there. So you can actually go into, there's two different rainforests. There's one which is a blank canvas, and then there's the second one which actually has the questions that you can ask within each of these different domains. And so you can look at, you can break up into groups. You can do this on your own. You can do this in a community where people can ask questions and try to map out all the different parts of the whole ecosystem together. If you go to the next slide, you can see some images from some live sessions we've done in doing these rainforest canvas work developments. And one of the really powerful aspects of rainforest canvassing is that it actually gives, it's actually the process, the journey, just like in entrepreneurship, it's the journey, not necessarily the destination. It's the process by which people engage on these questions that actually drives the transformation. They start to learn about ways to do things better and better, and they start to make their ecosystem better. And so maybe that's a key lesson to take away, is that when you're building out your own rainforest, your own entrepreneurial ecosystem, it's the process that counts, not necessarily the planning. So what happens often in entrepreneurial economic development is you have, whether it's government entities or whatever, they'll build out very beautiful plans and very complex plans. But entrepreneurship is actually not about, because the plans are, that's like farming. That's where you know what the result is in advance. It's actually the process of being in the ecosystem that counts. It's the relationships and the ideas that you form in that journey together. And so much of ecosystem development is through the active journey of people doing stuff in real life. If you go to the next slide, there's another resource for you, and I won't spend as much time on this one, but this is when I was at the Kauffman Foundation, we took all this learning and all these ideas and built a playbook. It's called the Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Building Playbook, and it is available for free online. You can see the website there, but you can also do a search on the terms Kauffman Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Playbook. And this really has become a resource for people all over the world that want to use it. It's got pretty pictures. It's got cute pictures like that of cute little people. And so it's actually a very fun read. It's very easy. It's written in normal English that people want to use. and because it's got the Kaufman brand on it, it's often more persuasive if you're working, say, with political leaders or such. So that playbook is essentially based and derived from all these different ideas I'm talking about, which is how do you build these complex ecosystems, these rainforests, but it's put in much more easy to understand language for people that want to digest it. Next slide. I'll talk a little bit just about policy and government, because this is what I'm doing now, and it also is a resource and a tool for you as well. So I launched an organization here in the United States called Right to Start. And the idea is that we believe that entrepreneurial opportunity is a fundamental right. If you think about, I mentioned earlier, entrepreneurs, we have no time to speak up for ourselves. And so we need some way to be able to do that. And the way that we've decided to do it here in the United States is actually to build a rights movement, like a human rights movement around entrepreneurship. Amazingly enough, it's never been done before. And amazingly enough, there has not really been an advocacy group or a voice for entrepreneurship in the public sphere in the United States before. And so that's what we launched here. And we now have, out of there's 50 states in the United States, we've had some kind of, we have a presence in 36 states already. We've had 8 states, we're only 5 years old. We've had 8 states that have actually changed their laws or policies based on our recommendations already. We have 8 grassroots organizations. We've had 22 state legislatures that have introduced new legislation based off of our work. So our work is having broad ripple effects already, and framing it as a right, calling it a right to start, is actually a way of thinking about it like a rainforest, which is if everyone's got that right, then you've gone from planning it like a farm and giving everyone the power in the rainforest to be able to do it on their own. And so that's the approach we're taking at Right to Start, is to really distribute that power and that voice to everybody very broadly. And if you go to the Right to Start website, and the next slide shows you this, we've actually got some policy recommendations. Now, these are US-based recommendations, but you can think about ways to, the concepts are universal. That is, you can use these ideas all over the world in different ways. So I won't go into all these, but they really cover all these different aspects of entrepreneurship, because the thing about policy in entrepreneurship, which is very difficult, which is it's a 360-degree issue. That is, every aspect of governance and economics affects the entrepreneur trying to start something. And so here we talk about government contracts, workforce development, economic development, cutting red tape, cutting fees, cutting licensing issues, tax relief, healthcare mobility. There's lots of different issues that we tackle here, and you're welcome to look at that. And it's on the field guide under the Right to Start website. Okay, next slide. And so I talked about building a rainforest and having the right to start and what that means for the individual. And so this is the entrepreneur. This is kind of the image I think of when I think of an entrepreneur, which is that little David, that little plant trying to break through the sidewalk and the crack, finding every crack you can and trying to push up from that crack. And so I always find this picture very inspiring, because against all odds, that little plant's trying to make it, which is what every entrepreneur at some point feels like especially in the beginning years when they're trying to build something. And so what we have to think about is, how do we actually keep that person in mind, that little tiny spark in mind, because it's so fragile in its early years. You'll remember I talked about David and Goliath at the beginning of this, so I want to close this out by talking about David and Goliath again. If you go to the next slide, this is a David, and some of you probably recognize it, maybe all of you recognize it. This is Michelangelo's David in Italy. And this is a photo I actually took myself. It's actually it was our first family vacation after COVID. So we were stuck for a few years. We could not go to Italy, which we planned to do it in 2000, which didn't work out well. But then a few years later, we did it. And I took this photo of the David. And the thing about David is it's one of the most beloved statues in the world. And those of you that might have seen it, you realize it's beautiful. It's huge. I mean, it's a gigantic statue. And it's so beautiful and detailed. But that's actually not the reason that people loved it so much. The citizens of Florence really loved the at for a different reason. And I'll explain why. And it goes a lot to the spirit of the rainforest and entrepreneurship. At the time, there were actually lots of other great sculptors that had created statues of David. But the statues were different, because the statues of David at the time, up until that point, were all statues of David after he'd already conquered the giant. In fact, David had often cut off the head of the giant. It's kind of gruesome. and was standing on the head of the giant and was victorious. So this was David the victor, the victorious soldier that had defeated the giant and won the battle. But the reason this statue was so beloved, the people of Florence actually put the statue in the center of town. They loved it so much, was because it was different. It was not David victorious. It was actually David before he went into battle. And if you look at this picture, you can actually see this. If you go to you can actually see him with his hand. He's holding the sling, one end of the sling with his hand. And if you go to the other slide, the next slide, and I took this picture myself as well, this is his hand. He's actually still clasping the end of the sling and the rock there. And you can see the veins on his hand. He's like, this is David not having already done the battle. This is David in the process of going into battle. This is David with the entrepreneurial spirit. This is David thinking, I'm going to go do that thing over there. I've still got the rock. And which is why it's such an energetic, passionate, beautiful statue, is because this is someone in the process of doing. This is every entrepreneur that's out there. They've got that rock. They're going into battle. And the next slide, you can really see this. And so in the next slide, you can see the face of David. And this is not a David that's already won the battle. You can actually it's in his eyes. This is David who's looking over the horizon. He's saying, you know what, let's go over there. Let's go do that thing. Let's go tackle that big problem. I think we've got a shot to pull this off. And so that's the entrepreneurial spirit. And so when I think about David and Goliath, I think about the statue and I think about David's eyes, because they're so vivid. They're the eye of an entrepreneur. And it's actually more than just an entrepreneur. It's sort of the human instinct, which is and I think what's made the statue so appealing is that idea that we can go do this. Like, this is sort of what human beings do. We have the ability to tackle these hard problems with that spirit, that fire in our eyes, and take that rock and that sling and go forth. On the next slide, then, this is sort of what I mean, that we are all David, that, every month there's a few people that decide to start a business, but it's the role of all of us that actually help in that rainforest, in that ecosystem, that we are all part of that great battle, that great journey to build new enterprises, to build things successfully, that we are all David. We all have that spark in our eyes to pull this off. And the next slide is a simple thank you. Thank you for listening. I wish I could be there. I could tell some of you are engaging with this and seem to be really into this material, but I just really appreciate the chance to talk with you and to be part of this. And I know, Alicia, we can have a little discussion as well about this too.
Thank you very much, Victor. I think we can all agree that that was an excellent and very insightful talk. I really love the analogy of the rainforest. I don't know if anybody else resonated with that, yeah? And some things that I just wrote down in my notes that really resonated around the values of driving entrepreneurial ecosystems. You mentioned engineering for serendipity, and a call to action for all of us, I think, to build our own rainforest, and that we each play a unique role in that work. So thank you again, Victor. I will open up for some questions from the audience, but just a question maybe to start us off. So Victor, in my day job, I'm a measurement specialist. So I'm always thinking about how do we measure the impact that we're trying to create in entrepreneurial ecosystems. So I know you mentioned, a few things around how connected the actors are. The literature also speaks about momentum and maturity and density in entrepreneurial regions or ecosystems. So I just wanted to get maybe from your experience and your view of what actually works in regional entrepreneurial ecosystems. Are there key indicators that we should be looking at to really tell us if ecosystems are moving in the right direction? And is there anything else that you might recommend for us to really be keeping our eye on?
This is probably the greatest challenge within entrepreneurial ecosystem development, which is once something appears, once we have a knowledge of the business, once we can count them, that's very obvious and easy to count. But so much of the challenge and the opportunity is the preconditions. That is the rainforest environment that gives rise to it. And so if you think about like people that are starting a business, what are the things that actually help them or get in their way in doing so? And it's so multifaceted, it's so multifactorial that it becomes a real challenge to do it well. So if you think about the culture, the relationships, the social networks, the regulatory barriers, the knowledge and information, the education they might have received. And so I think we're actually developing a tool within the US now to try to replicate some of this. But the basic idea is that it has to be a multifaceted approach with a deep sense of what are the culture and values, and what are the narratives in people's minds? What are the stories they tell themselves? Because ultimately, those stories, those values drive the idea of whether people even want to start or they get scared off. We actually asked people in the US, we did a poll, a national poll, and asked if you thought about starting a business but did not, what were the things that stopped you? And it ends up being almost everything. It ends up being the government red tape, the cost of doing it, the lack of access to capital. They're afraid of doing it. In the US, we have issues around healthcare, fear of lack of access to healthcare, childcare issues, restrictions on previous contracts they had to keep them from competing against someone. It's just everything, multifaceted. A lack of knowledge and information, lack of access. People say everything. And so if you think about all the things that get in the way, there's no one simple answer, but we do have to think about it. But it's the reality. I mean, the reality is if you create one simple answer, then you're oversimplifying the problem. So what we really have to do is to think of it in terms of what are all the things that an individual has to deal with as they're trying to go forth into starting something. And so we're actually looking at both the preconditions and the postconditions, which are different. And so if you think of the preconditions, they're often about, how do you get started? It's the fear, it's the information, it's the knowledge, and the access. But then once you get going, it starts to become often about capital for scaling or regulatory barriers that keep you from growing. But they're all different along the way. And so you have to be conscious of the stages of growth, both pre and post and as you grow. So it's maybe more of a complex answer than you wanted, but it's a complex question.
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Questions from the audience? I see 2 hands over here. There is a mic coming around.
Hi, Victor. The name is Rehana. I run a company called the Barefoot Facilitator. And in fact, when you were presenting the photographs of your parents, it was really resonance of my grandparents. So 2 questions I guess I have. The first one, those of us who are products of families who kind of migrated and then, entrepreneurship wasn't a choice, that was survival, and then prized education to the extent that entrepreneurship was not seen as something you should be questing after. Go and get the job. That's the first question. How do we kind of advocate more broadly around that? And the second one, I guess, is probably not specific to South Africa, but is so topical at the moment around the fact that foreign national migrants tend to be very entrepreneurial in nature, and the kind of xenophobia that is creeping in around how do they come here with nothing and become successful, and we who were born here are struggling to make it. And getting policymakers to understand that the rainforest requires everyone.
Yes, those are 2 great questions. I can tackle that immediate question around, like in the United States, the data shows that immigrants start businesses at 2 times the rate of non-immigrants. And if you think about, there was research also, and Kauffman Foundation sponsored this research, that 50% of all the startup companies that had, I think, gone public or had grown to a certain size in the United States, 50% of them had immigrants as a co-founder. And so immigrants are very powerful as an economic driver. But it is challenging, and we deal with xenophobia in the United States as well. The data doesn't seem to convince people who maybe have made up their minds about certain types of things. But I think the thing that often is very powerful is telling the stories. And showing how, like, oftentimes what happens is after a company has been successful, people kind of forget how it happened. They assume that person had it easy. They don't realize how hard it was for these things to be built. And so, in fact, I interviewed an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, a few weeks ago, and I asked him about his journey and how he got started and why he started, and it was a very personal story. And he said, and I asked, how often do people ask this question? He goes, almost never. Like, they all think about the result. They love what you built, but they don't ask you how you started and what it took to make it happen. And I think bringing those stories out is one way to do that, because stories drive empathy. They make us care. They humanize people, especially stories of struggle. And I think that's one way. It's not perfect, but it is one way I've seen that actually helps in driving some of the entrepreneurship policy, is to actually get the individual stories. And the individual stories are even more powerful in person. That is, if you put them on video, that's one thing, but if you can have them live with someone, there's nothing like having a live person who can say, I was an immigrant, here's what I did, and here's the lives it affected. That's very powerful. There's nothing quite like that. But it's harder to scale, of course. Videos are easier to scale. But I think stories and the personal touch are ultimately, human beings are designed for person to person. I know we're talking virtually here, but person to person is where you really can convey that depth of understanding and empathy and sympathy for someone's journey. So I would use that. The other question about risk aversion and parents and telling you to just get a job. It was actually interesting. It was a few years ago, way back in Hong Kong. I had dinner with one of the great entrepreneurs in Hong Kong, and the question was raised at the table: what is the biggest barrier to entrepreneurs in Hong Kong? And it wasn't. Hong Kong is known for having very low regulatory barriers, and so it wasn't regulatory barriers. It wasn't even capital. It was actually, he said, parents. Parents are actually the ones that hold their kids back, because the parents want their kids to go work in the job. And so that is the challenge. And my parents were the same. When I decided to pick a path that was less traveled, there were a lot of questions about, well, what does that mean? And what are the risks of taking these other paths? But I think a big part of it is actually being able to provide networks and show strength in community, to say, look, here's all these other examples of people that have done this, that are with me, and that have been part of the journey or are part of that journey and are in that community with me now. I think often that's where the strength comes from, because, like this entrepreneur I mentioned in Hong Kong, he was able to convince people, because he was successful and he was able to recruit people into his business. That became a source of leverage on parents, because you could tell that story to say, this person did it and he's been really successful. I'd like to join this and learn from him and be part of this too. So I think, again, the personal stories are probably the most effective way to help deal with the parents and the need to get a job. Because immigrant parents, they come from that background of, it's easier to get a job. If my parents hadn't been entrepreneurs themselves, they probably wouldn't have appreciated the path I took, and certainly would have inspired the path I took. But I think they definitely appreciate and understand what I've been doing my whole career.
Yeah, we have time for one more.
Good morning. My name is Mokhadi Matuludi, and I'm from the Presidential Employment Stimulus. It's a public employment program. I think one of our flagship programs is the Basic Education Employment Initiatives that we have placed over 200,000 young people across the schools in South Africa. As you know, we have more than 20,000 schools in the country. So I think part of us raising our hands this morning is want to be the Davids that we are beating the Goliath, which is poverty, inequality, which is unemployment, keep on perpetuating that as a factor among many other factors. And I think as we are grappling with pathways out of the public employment program, one of the things that want us to be part of this village of entrepreneurship is that we want to put in a challenge among many of our participants in such a way that what if one of the participants that are in our schools currently are leaving the program to be in an entrepreneurship? It means we have 20,000. If it's 2, it means we have 40,000. So part of us being within this community is so that we don't go back and write another report and we file it and we move on, and this is one of the engagements that we have done, but become active actionists in this particular moment so that we can support those pathway strategies to be useful, to be more practical, so that we can sort of start to be part of the forest in this initiative. It's more of a question and a statement at the same time, but I really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Yeah, specifically also around education and how do we shape education. I'll give you, this was an interesting personal story. Was raising, we have two young boys, now they're older now, but when we lived in Silicon Valley, they were young. And then I had to move to Kansas City. And when we were in Silicon Valley, I learned we were in we were in the heart of Silicon Valley, where a lot of the tech startup people were. And the kindergartners, my kids were in kindergarten at one point, they learned design thinking. They do project-based learning. The kids were actually interviewing people in the community and building product prototypes in kindergarten in Silicon Valley. And it was so natural, and the kids loved it. It was such a happy, fun, dynamic educational process. And we moved to Kansas City, and for the Kauffman Foundation, and my kids went to the school, and they were doing handouts that were like 30 years old, and they were basically taking tests, and they didn't get to do design thinking anymore. They had very little project-based learning, and it just changed completely. And I realized the gap in models of education was very vast. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because I think what's happened now, and this is the US, I don't know South Africa, obviously, but in the US, almost the entire K through 12 and even the K through college experience is teaching you to become a good member of the farm. They teach you jobs to get a job. They teach you skills to be placed in a job. They don't actually teach you skills to create your own thing, to create your own value in the world. And it's the entire system is geared towards that, because the testing is geared towards that, the teacher training is geared towards that, the credentialing system is geared towards that, the college acceptance systems are geared towards that, the college career offices are all geared towards that, teaching you to get in a job. And so if someone says, I want to start something on my own, they have no idea how to do it. And so the difference is the schools that are shifting that, they have to do it. Actually, it's a very hard David and Goliath battle. And there's only one university that I know in the entire United States that is actually requiring design thinking for all freshmen, mandating it. And that's it's at Marshall University, which is in one of the poorest regions of the United States. And the reason they've decided to require design thinking, it's in West Virginia, is because the former CEO of Intuit, which is one of the great Silicon Valley tech firms, he retired and went to become president of Marshall University. And he basically said, this is how we create great innovation in Silicon Valley, and there's no reason every kid who comes through my college shouldn't be required to learn design thinking. And so they require design thinking for every freshman. Over half their school, these are first-generation college kids. They've never been to college before. Their family's never been to college before. And so they require it, and it's transformative. I've talked to kids there, and it's had a transformative effect on them, because they feel like they can tackle any problem in the world. Like if you learn design thinking, that doesn't mean every problem is going to end up being defeated, but it means you've got a methodology and a process by which to tackle the unknown. And so much of what we think of as education now is about guessing the answers that's already known, as opposed to building something that's unknown. And so the schools need to start finding ways to teach that. And I'll tell you, it's hard because, yeah, as I mentioned, only one university in the whole United States that requires it. In all other universities, they have entrepreneurship, but it's always on the side. It's always something that you have to kind of like elect to go into. But I think we need to move it from the edge of campus to the center of campus, to the center of the curriculum, which is teaching design thinking, project-based learning, basic financial skills need to be just part of what everyone learns. You can't graduate from high school without the skills to be able to be self-sufficient. I think we're not asking for that much, but I think that shift has to happen now, and it's becoming, I think, increasingly urgent now because, yeah, I think it's increasingly urgent now because we're graduating generations of kids now that don't know what to do if you put them out on their own. All they know is how to apply for a job. And you can't build an economy on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Victor. I think we can give Victor another round of applause. Thank you, Victor. It was really great to have you, and I wish we had more time to pick your brain, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, well, night, actually, to be with us, and hopefully we can meet in person one day soon at another one of these gatherings, but we really thank you for your time and for sharing your insights.
My pleasure. It's a real honor. Thank you all. Have a wonderful conference.
Wow, 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 wow. How amazing was that? Yeah, it was good, right? I don't know about you, but I have been scribbling some ideas. I already sent to Zim an idea. I'm already pitching.
Seth has written a book worth of notes.
I think you're muted.
There's a book worth of notes. If anyone needs notes from this session and you missed anything, Seth has about 90 pages in the last hour. Fantastic session. Thank you so very much.
I think it's going to lead us very nicely into the master classes that are going to happen now. But can we just give a round of applause to Alicia Okeo Atmore, who is our head of innovation and learning at Allen and Jogre Philanthropy South Africa. But before we get into those master classes, we do want to recognize a few things. Yesterday we had the ESO Awards. And some of you might have not been here to witness that amazing occasion. So we want to just quickly redo that. And thank you to our guests who've just joined us today. You're very welcome. So we're going to quickly just highlight who those winners are. Act like you don't know if you saw it yesterday. Ululate, scream. Let's give them a round of applause. So we're going to ask Zim to come back.
Come on, Zim.
Just to announce who the winners are. Can we give her a round of applause?
Okay.
While she's putting on her lipstick. And then can we just get the roaming mic? No. All right, if we can have the roaming mic. The roaming mic.
Okay. Also, how cool are these trophies? I want one of these.
Ellen Gray fellow made them.
Stunning.
See if you just give context.
So, good morning, everybody. Just a quick context. Yesterday, we recognized a few entrepreneurship support organizations. And we did say that we were asked to complete a survey. We wanted to understand the entrepreneurship support organizations that exist in our rainforest. Now we'll call it that, right? We should. That exist in our rainforest. The Goliaths that support other Goliaths. The Davids that support other Davids, right? And so we did say that based on that survey, we looked at the ESOs that are, according to their own responses, offering multiple support avenues for entrepreneurs. And secondly, as well, those that are really doing the hard work of trying to track how well they're doing. Hopefully this will become a permanent feature of Motse, but where we really celebrate every single one of you and the work that you do. So we had 3 of those entrepreneurship support organizations. One, and I'm going to call them up if they're here today. They're all here, all 3, 2, all. Heavy Chef, is Heavy Chef here? Thank you. Please come receive the award.
Okay, you'll do it.
Thank you very much.
Congrats.
Please give them a hand. We're looking, there's a picture apparently.
They did talk about us yesterday.
Thank you.
At that award.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Then the second one, but they're not here, but we did recognize them yesterday, was SpaceX, and they joined us online. Don't leave, please stand this side. And then last but not least, to a startup culture. Thanks, Jeff, again.
Joanna.
So that our auditors can see, we're taking pictures for the auditors today. and head of finance can be there. Thank you.
Hey, Zim. Photo.
Thank you you very much. Please give them a hand again and well done.
Amazing.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I want to hijack them very quickly. You can put your money away. You can give it to me. I'm safe. Don't worry. I'm not going to steal it. Don't worry. I'm good for it. All right. We just want to give us a pitch. What does Heavy Chef do and what does the organization do?
So Heavy Chef is a learning and community platform for entrepreneurs. And our mission is really to inspire entrepreneurship, help them to grow and optimize their businesses, and we have various offerings. So we have a whole platform. We offer more than 350 short courses delivered from entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. So we're all about peer-to-peer learning. That is really our philosophy, and we absolutely believe that the entrepreneurs are the heroes here on this planet. They are driving the change with their ideas, with their innovation, with the agency and ownership that they're taking, and we're always inspired by them. We love working with them, sitting in the classroom with them, meeting them in our events. And
Where can we find you? Where's your website? What's your website?
So our website is heavychef.com.
Okay.
You can look us up, become member. We have free membership where you can sign up and have access to all our wonderful offerings and recipes, our business recipes.
Sinclair.
And we also have events. We have online events. We have in-person events. We just launched our third book, which is Storytelling for Businesses.
We heard.
Yes. So you're more than welcome to come to our book launch, which is happening on the 23rd of October at Workshop 17 in Rosebank. So you're more than welcome to come and join us and celebrate our third book launch.
Excellent. There you go. Mr. Jafta?
Thank you. So we are an incubator, and we have 5 hubs across South Africa. We build the infrastructure ourselves. So we have co-working spaces, co-make spaces. We have rapid prototyping facilities across our hubs in underserviced areas. So we in Namakwa, we now build a new campus in the Eastern Cape. We also have a new campus in Uppington. We have a new campus in the Western Cape. And then we have 3 campuses in Gauteng.
Amazing.
And we provide a suite of support services for entrepreneurs.
Awesome. And can organizations rent out your facilities? I'm just looking for... Okay, amazing. There you go. Where can we find you?
www.ashergroup.co.za.
There we go. All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah, please. Oh, you want your money? Yes, that's right.
They want their money. I did actually go online yesterday and look for some recipes, business recipes. And I did go and find out what you guys really do. So thank you. Thank you for that great work. I've certainly learned 1 or 2 things that I'll be cooking up in my business kitchen. Okay, so it's so interesting because I was worried that Victor's session would take us straight into day 2 and we'd miss out. But actually, I love how he connected a bit of day 1 and day 2 for us. Yeah. There's quite a bit that he brought together, even without having been in the room yesterday. I don't know, maybe he had been given notes. He had been given crib notes on what we said yesterday from Alicia.
Yeah,
and if you did, that's great. So we want to spend some time just quickly doing that reflection together, looking at day 1, reminding ourselves what day 1 was about, so we could take that bridge across to day 2. We have a lot of notes and thoughts. We'd love to hear yours as well. But the team have been putting together some great content around us. Let's give it up for the content team. Actually, they've been so amazing. They've been working so hard. They've been doing such great work, and we can't wait to see what they've put together. So we've got a highlights video from day 1, and then we're going to go into some reflections and bridge across to day 2. Let's have a look. It's coming. It's coming. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, beautiful people of the Motse Village, to our gathering of 2025.
I must say it has been a highly reflective day. What it takes to have a village, which is an ecosystem that can enable progress, that can enable prosperity.
So today is helping me connect with other people in the eco-space. This is a space where people come and form networks.
My one word, Motse is perfect.
Impactful. Fantastic. I enjoyed the deliberations, the engagement. Everything was superb.
And what I loved about today is that we're dealing with the real issue in this country, unemployment, huge youth unemployment, and we should all work together to drive the change that we want to see.
Stunning.
Wow. Incredible.
It's also very hard to capture all of yesterday in like a minute. So that's really great summary work. I'm very long-winded. I would have never been able to do that. Seth, do you want to take us through some of your thoughts and reflections from yesterday?
Yeah, I wrote a book from that masterclass. I'll be publishing it tomorrow. You can come to my event. But yeah, just some highlights that I took from Victor Wong was really around this analogy of the rainforest. I think we've often talked about ecosystems, and in my mind, I thought of it as a farm, but I think I loved the imagery of a rainforest. It's unpredictable, it's messy, but things happen, life happens. Prosperity comes from the Davids. Oof, we can just stop there. We've had this discussion in our boardrooms at AGPSA around these startups versus SMMEs. And I loved how he didn't call them SMMEs, he called them young businesses, just to change the framing such that they're not always looked down upon as small businesses. We've chosen, I agreed unwittingly, to call them ventures instead of SMMEs. But I love the framing around prosperity comes from the Davids. Another thing that came out was this ecosystems and the challenges that entrepreneurs face. And there was an article that was written on LinkedIn, I'll share it in the group, around ecosystem tax. And what it is, it's the tax that the entrepreneur takes on from trying to navigate this ecosystem. And the ecosystem is fragmented and there's a lot of inefficiencies. And we need to avoid that. How do we avoid creating ecosystem tax for entrepreneurs? Your thoughts?
Stunning stuff. So my reflection came a little bit from after the session. Who did the tour, the Constitutional Hill tour yesterday? Quite a few of us, I think, were in different groups across the tour. Amazing tour, really insightful, really hard tour. Everyone who was on my group would see I struggled very much with that tour. And one of the beautiful things we discussed, and I'm trying to find the lady that I was walking with when we were walking back and we were reflecting on the tour, is when you went in and you saw how much work went into documenting and keeping the stories of what happened then. And Victor also touched on it now in his response, which I think was amazing, in that if we don't document the stories of what we're building and what we're doing, there won't be anything for, there was a girl at the statue of the girl, for the future generation, the future new businesses to build on. The mistakes that we've made, the learnings that we have, the connections that we've built, the recipes that we've created. If we don't tell those stories to each other, if we don't come around this Lekgotla type approach and philosophy and do that, then there's nothing. And it's not an easy story to tell. It wouldn't have been easy for people to be sitting in the conditions that they were sitting in those jails and smuggling letters and smuggling pieces of paper and trying to write those. And it's not an easy journey that you are all on, and I commend you for it. But it is one where you have the responsibility to tell your story and to document that story so that we can build on from that story. So that was my biggest reflection from yesterday, because that's the only way in which we can build from history or improve from history and change some of the models that have been entrenched. I love what Victor said about how we are right now teaching people to guess an answer that's known as opposed to teaching people how to tackle an unknown answer. I think that was completely life-changing for me. And I'm now going to go and sit and find a course on design thinking at my ripe old age.
Don't worry,
I'm not in kindergarten anymore, but I can see what I can do. My pants look like I'm in kindergarten, so I'm winning somewhere.
Sorry,
so those are our reflections.
There's your solution solved.
Is that my solution?
Yeah, design thinking.
We're going to do this together. That's fantastic. And while we're here, can we have the mic and get some reflections from the room? We'd love to hear what you guys are thinking and taking from yesterday into today's sessions.
Absolutely.
So if we have any hands, please raise them and come through.
If you could keep your responses to a tweet or an X, not a PhD thesis, short and sweet, all right? Any hands, any reflections from the day before we volunteer you?
You know we will. You know we will.
We will.
And you're right in the front. It's like you don't do that. You don't come to a comedy show and sit in the front.
We can get the mic.
It's dangerous. It's just dangerous. Come on, Giselle.
Zinhle, I think we're just going to give mics to people. Here we go.
I looked away.
Name of organization and who you are.
I am from the Presidential Employment Stimulus and DJMT. And it's really exciting to see how many ideas are in one room and the energy that's out there to kind of build, in policy terms, pathways. Yeah, so I think I left yesterday, my brain was tired. I hadn't spoken that much with new people in a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm also incredibly practical, so I think I look forward to what happens next.
Fantastic.
More than a tweet, maybe it was a thread.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Love
It
it.
was a good thread.
I'm
Looking
going
forward
to
to
go
what's happening
to
next.
Sihle Mofokeng. He's been thinking about ecosystems. He's working on a strategy. Sihle, what do you think?
We've got you. We're coming to you.
We're going to come that side, don't worry.
We're coming to you.
I'm just putting my colleague on the spot. Sihle, what are your thoughts? Come, Sihle.
Sure. No, yesterday my reflection is really
Your
just
name, organization you
sorry.
represent.
Sihle Mofokeng, and I'm with Allen Gray Makers. So yeah, my reflection was really from the grounding that Nyaleti started off with in the morning, just really reminding us of how far we've come, why we're here for Motse, and why we've chosen this venue. That was really great, and yeah, really just laid the foundation for what we are trying to do as a collective.
Fantastic.
Beautifully
We've
said.
got one more over this side of the room. And then
Thanks, Tulani.
they are waving.
Oh, they're waving.
In fact, there's two. My goodness. All of a sudden, now you guys will wake up.
Yeah.
I literally had to almost strong arm people into answering, and now. But I like you guys, so I'll let it happen. Thanks, man. Okay, we've got two hands over here, and then one last one here.
All right, morning everybody. Oopsie, sorry, excuse me. My question, not really question, reflection on yesterday was really around the phenomenal two ladies that were there talking about their journey.
Yeah.
And just how long that journey took for them to finally make it to a room like this and sit and tell that story. So in my head, I was summarizing 25 years.
Sure.
It's the education part, it's the going through high school part, it's the finding their way through a learnership parts, because I think some of them had multiple. It's the getting to 30 years old. So let's say 20, 25, that's a full generation, right? And so when we're looking at this rainforest ecosystem, can we please, as I'm going to constantly advocate for, is not forget the children under 5 and look at that vision from where we are today.
So
it's the 2040, the 2050 vision of what we're talking about in the rainforest.
The seeds.
It's the seed of entrepreneurship, thinking, design thinking that needs to be planted to a 5-year-old in any language.
Yeah.
And as a play advocate, it's through play you can do that.
Amazing.
And it's come through from Victor today, so thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
I'm definitely joining the play education space.
Sorry, you and Onyi need to chat because I think you're in the same space. I'm just making the Motse connection happen for you.
Is Onyi back?
Yeah.
Hi, Doc.
Yes, next.
There we go in the back, the gentleman right
The gentleman
behind
at the
you.
back. We'll take maybe...
And then just one more here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tsepo Ngwenyama, and I am part of Generation Unlimited, which is the innovation arm of UNICEF, specifically part of an initiative called YOMA, Youth Agency Marketplace. And what we do is try to connect the ecosystem or enable the ecosystem to connect young people to learning, earning, and impact opportunities. And I guess something that stuck with me yesterday was in the beginning, sort of in the opening, one of the sort of opening remarks around, I think it was a specific statement of how do we solve the problem at scale and not how might we scale our solutions. And I think it touched on a lot of things around, I guess in an ecosystem where everyone is somewhat doing the same thing, there's a lot of ego, and I think there's a lot of wanting to scale my approach to the problem rather than scaling like how we're solving the problem. So that kind of stuck with me quite a lot sort of throughout the day. And I'm really interested in terms of how do we leverage data as an ecosystem to really understand what's happening and then connect the nodes better.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Thanks,
How do we won't have succeeded unless we make the problem smaller, right? Even if we scaled ourselves to the largest forest,
Yeah.
the largest farm, but if we haven't made the problem smaller, then we haven't won. Our last reflection will come from the back of the room.
Yeah, and Tsepo, if you want someone to explain scale a bit deeper, Nyakalo Marafe is over here. You can speak to her.
Morning, my name's Rod Spencer from the Africa Cooperative Action Trust. We are in the space of livelihoods through entrepreneurship and sustainable agriculture, but we co-create and collaborate with communities for communities. I like to oversimplify things. It's the way my brain works. But I think the one thing that stuck with me yesterday was from Dr. Onyinye, simplifying the fact that entrepreneurship and the businesses created need to last beyond the actual grant or investment. And how we've had a couple of variations of the word entrepreneurship, and we all know the tenderpreneur. We know, well, we use the word forcedpreneur, people who are just doing it to make a means and are not actually entrepreneurs.
Sure.
But yesterday I coined the idea of a grantpreneur.
Yeah.
And how we have to be careful about that. We're just
Yeah.
hopping from grant to grant to grant. And can those businesses actually grow? And can they create jobs? Because at the end of the day, the entrepreneurs end, what we get excited about, and maybe I'm speaking on behalf of us, so I'll speak for myself, but I get excited of the idea of businesses and entrepreneurs creating jobs. You know, it's not just existing for that individual, it's existing for the greater ecosystem. And then a learning from today, in the rainforest analogy is, and I resonate with it, I love the idea of rainforests and those sorts of ecosystems, but in a rainforest, sometimes the biggest form of growth is when a tree falls down, because it creates light for new plants to grow. And the bed in which those seeds are growing from is from a humus level, which is made of fallen leaves, which is not death, it's success. Those leaves have achieved what they needed to achieve. They've photosynthesized, they've created growth, and they've fallen, and they've landed, and they've created those beds in which seeds have been able to grow. So, just my 2 takeaways.
Yeah,
Thank you.
deep,
Beautifully
Rod.
said. Yeah.
Woo.
He needs to write a book.
I was going to say, so the Grantpreneur book, the
Rainforest book.
The rainforest book, too much, the programmatic entrepreneur, the forcepreneur. I love that. I think we can unpack that. You can do your own Connect 10 of all the different types of entrepreneurs that we have in the room. That's fantastic, guys, and I'm loving the different pieces of insight that we're able to bring to each other, and the different vantage points that we all hold and how they contribute to the broader conversation being more enriched with each interaction that we're going to have. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on for the rest of the day. It's the interactions that are going to enrich us to the point of action and to the point of moving from farms to rainforest. I really like that.
So there's a commitment card. We talked to you about it yesterday. It's a little card that you all have in your goodie bag. And the idea there is for you to write what is the action that you want to take as part of this rainforest. Who would have thought you'd have come to a conference talking about ecosystems, now we're talking about rainforest, right? So what is the commitment idea that you have? If you could write that down, our ushers around the room will put it up on that wall. And the idea is for us to harvest seeds, as it may be, for this rainforest that we're trying to create. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to quickly write the commitment cards. They should be in that little pamphlet book that you have there. And then, Zinhle, I thought instead of us introducing the masterclasses, let's have the masterclass facilitators come and just give us a quick pitch as to why people should attend their masterclass. Instead of, let's stop doing the hard work, Zinhle. Let's give them the work.
Can I just give... Can I just give myself a round of applause for how good I've been a mentor here? Because as I said yesterday, I make other people MC and I get paid. And look at how he's taken this on now. I didn't even have to brief him on this. He's like, let's make other people come up and announce their own. We don't have to do the work. Look at you. You've grown so much in a day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm taking him on the road with me.
Cool.
Alan Gray Makers, you're about to lose an employee. This man knows how to do the job. So I know some of the guys are busy in a few other sessions, but those who are able to. So also just to remind you guys, so if you recall, when you were doing the selection online, there were 3 masterclasses for you to choose from. So some of you would have chosen masterclass 3, which we then decided to do in plenary today because there were so many of us who wanted to get a sense of what Victor was bringing us, and I'm glad that we did that. So masterclass 3 has now already happened. This does not mean you are homeless. We are nice people in the village. Everyone, you'll find a place to sleep. So you can either go to Masterclass 1 or Masterclass 2. You can choose between the 2. You are a welcome guest in both of them. And we'll just tell you quickly logistically. So this will all happen after tea. So we're going to break for tea. When the drum sounds for tea to end, you're going to go straight into the masterclass rooms. You're not going to come back here and listen to us. So the first masterclass, I always get my bearings wrong. Yes. Up the stairs behind you and to this room above the stage. That is where plenary 1 is taking place. And plenary 1 is titled?
Plenary 1 is titled?
Breakaway 1 is Generating Ecosystem Insights. And that one is Prof. Isaac Kambule and Dr. Pumlani Nkontwana. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Are you going to come tell us about your plenary? Yes.
Yes. Let's give them a round of applause.
They're working, eh?
So,
come on up.
On stage.
My friend here, Isaac, has just fallen ill.
Oh no!
Look at him. he's putting me on the spot. He says he can't breathe, but I'm like, dude, like there are moments to breathe and moments not to breathe, but this is not the one not to breathe.
In the middle.
Like we need, the ecosystem needs you. But anyways, so hopefully you will stand later. But we just want to talk about one project which we're doing, which is what we call Connect 10 Provincial Ecosystem Project. So what we're doing is we've gone around the provinces, and the exciting thing is 6 months ago we didn't know this is possible, but we've gone around all the 9 provinces and collected data on the ecosystem conditions, and it's very much similar to the rainforest concept. And I read the book, and you can even go online. There's something called Rainforest Canvas tool. So if you think of that tool, so we've collected data along the lines of the Rainforest Canvas. And what we'll be doing today is basically showcasing that data and doing a cool exercise to get you guys to think about what do you think the conditions are using a robot system, red, green, and yellow. So half of the session will be playing, and then later we'll showcase the actual data that we've put together. And then hopefully in November or December, we'll launch a report, which will be the first ever State of Entrepreneurial Ecosystems in the provinces of South Africa.
Woo!
Amazing.
Exciting. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Beautifully said, Prof. And maybe, let me just brag for him. He is the director of the Africa Center, the Alan Gray Center for Africa Entrepreneurship. And he is leading ecosystem research in the continent. Fun fact, out of 57 papers, only 2 papers in the world cite African entrepreneurial ecosystems.
Sure.
And he's solving for that through the Africa Center for Africa Entrepreneurship. They've just developed the first dashboard of African ecosystem insights. You can go and look at it. But I really encourage you to go there. Kofi Annan says, without data, we're flying blind. And if we want to work in this rainforest, we need data to help drive decision-making, to help us make more informed decisions and implement better programming. So I want to encourage you to join that session. The other session, the host is on a webinar, but if we talk about ecosystem enablers and ESOs that are noteworthy, Fatola is one of them. They've been in business for the last 15 years. I know them because I'm a bit of a competitor. I love their work. They've created, I think, over 15,000 jobs. And what they've codified is their model of how they drive small business growth acceleration. So in her session, she'll be unpacking the art of acceleration, taking participants through how they do the Fatola way. So I want to encourage you, if you're an ESO, ecosystem builder, and you want to learn about a scalable model of how to really drive SME growth, you can join that session. I hope I did it justice. Please go. Okay, great. Where is that?
So that session takes place outside by where we were in the tea garden. If you're on your way to the tea garden, before you get there, just short right. Not
right.
short left, short right.
Right through the store,
Right through the
over there.
There's a room there. You can't miss it. It looks great. It looks like my pants. Just wherever you're looking for a room, guys, just look for a room that looks like Zinhle's about to go into that room. There's bean bags. It looks like me and Toy Library came together and it just exploded. That's what you're looking for. Those are the rooms that you're going into master classes for. So we're going to take a lunch. We are obviously run
Tea. Not yet.
I want this to end.
Yesterday was
I
dinner.
really want to go home. I'm so tired of you guys. We're going to have tea. We're going to have tea. And we're going to connect over tea. We're going to create some more Motse moments. Yes. We're going to continue. And then straight to the master classes when you hear the drum. So tea might be a little shorter than normal. You are able to take your tea and coffee and
upstairs
food with you into the room. Please confirm, team, that they're able to take eats with them into the room. So it's a working session. It's a paper bag tea. And you're welcome to use it in the same way. So enjoy tea, make some Motse moments, put your commitments up.
I think it's a 45.
The third one is not happening. It's the one that was here in the room. Yeah.
Tea will be about 10 to 12 minutes, but just listen to the drum.
Just listen for the drum.
Listen to the drum. Just listen to the drum.
Max 15 minutes.
Max 15
we'll
minutes.
See how we feel.
Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen.
Enjoy tea time. See you soon.
See you soon.
Choose wisely in your master classes. Please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen, so we can begin the last session. Minister and cabinet at the back, please take your seats.
1, 2.
The drum has sounded.
We need a pathway here, huh?
Yeah. Whichever way you want to create one.
Shall we do a quick...
Let's go, let's go.
Facilitated reflections. Ooh, careful, you're right.
I'm breaking the stage now. Last
Good
session, please make your way in from the back. Mpo, colleagues at the coffee. Me and these tables have a love-hate relationship.
Yeah. All right, if we could get seated so we can
Come on in.
Hear from the masterclass reflections. How good was that dessert? Ice cream was nice. Okay, yeah.
Ice cream.
Ice cream. And the food, I hope you were able to connect via a meal, but also...
Did we have some Motse moments?
Motse moments.
I think people are just sitting with their friends now. Guys, it's unacceptable. What is this? Also, I can see what you guys are doing here. This coming late. No, you know what it is? The one semester of psychology that I did said that you guys are avoiding the end. So you're dragging it out, painfully dragging your feet to come back to the session because you don't want it to end. So I see you.
Makes sense.
I see the pain you're carrying. I'm going to go back to my psychology professor and say, I found one use for you in my life. No shame. He taught me how to read a room, so not too bad. But the sentiment is shared.
I had a Motse moment.
Did you?
Yes.
Tell us.
Can I tell you who I met?
Who?
So I met, don't know if I can say their names here. Tsenelo, Masisi, and Kabelo. All three of them are from the same village.
What?
How
Where
crazy.
are they?
In Northwest. There they are. And
Hi.
they all met at the village.
They met at this village.
Get it?
We only have an African drum. We don't have a...
Then I met another organization called Anzisha. They are focused on very young entrepreneurs, and they have they have books to help parents coach young people, their kiddies, onto how to think entrepreneurially.
I love that.
Yeah.
Where are they? Where are you guys? That is fantastic. Where do we get those resources?
Sorry, you need a mic. Can
So
we get her
think,
a mic? We
think
can't hear
like
her.
a parent and act like a coach is available on the Anzisha website. So if you're looking for that, please go through. The team is also right there at the back. You can go and talk to them at
They have
any
free
point.
resources as well. Amazing.
This is a great free resource.
Brilliant.
And if any of you were in the session, in the Fatola session, actually, there was mention made about how we often are the greatest, and I think Victor Huang also mentioned it this morning, how we look at the conditions around why people are scared of going into entrepreneurship or what makes it hard, but it's often us as parents who are actually the ones who are like, go get a good job, don't risk it. And so I think even that mindset shift of think like a parent, act like a coach is a great, valuable resource for us to pass down.
They also
That's
have
a great Motse moment.
Yeah, a toolkit for entrepreneurs, support organizations to support under 25-year-olds. So if you need those resources, please head out to
Us
see
under
Dave,
25-year-olds
Ahmed, and the team over there.
Are so grateful. Please
Cool.
pass on to us, younger generation, your learnings. Fantastic. Guys, sure, yeah, it is the last session. And we're going to, there's a few things that need to happen though before the last session, so do not be dismayed. Let your hearts not be discouraged. We still have some time together. So we're still going to reflect. We're still going to spend time. If you haven't made a Motse moment, we're not going to kick you out of the room at like 3 o'clock on the dot. Continue to network, continue to meet with people. Please keep putting your idea cards on the wall. Continue looking at people that you can align with in your spaces and in your areas.
Yeah.
We're still going to run our day 2 survey, so please don't leave without filling that in. Again, that allows us to get feedback on the day's events, on the structure, on the way in which it was executed, so that we can ensure that the next convening of a gathering is even better than this one, even though I don't know how you could ever get better than this one, but we will try. We will do our very best to try that. Any other housekeeping that we need to be aware of before we close out the day?
And I think you mentioned commitment cards. Remember, we're trying to source out seeds, ideas for the ecosystem, so please don't forget to write your commitment card. No idea is a bad idea, all right? Let's share it. You never know who would want to collaborate with you.
Okay. We want to do some quick reflections from the masterclass sessions in terms of what came out there. And we wanted to actually check in with the Motse talent team that were in the room. I know some of you were scribing and some of you were taking reflections. If you could come up and give us literally 2 minutes of key takeouts from what was discussed in the room and what some of the key points were that came up. So I know that in Catherine's room, Lana, you were there. It's they don't call you guys talent for nothing. So you were not a scribe. Who was the scribe?
So if someone can just come and do a quick summary. Lana, I think you can do it. So
I think you guys can. You don't have to have been a scribe. This is actually why. You see, because the scribe was busy scribing, and you were hopefully listening. This is it. This is the moment.
All right. She did
who are
take
we
notes.
calling up? Who are we calling up from Prof's room?
Prof Teboho? Teboho, are you here? Teboho. Oh, there
Where's
she is.
Teboho?
Yes,
Come
Teboho.
on.
I
There we
heard
go.
you were in the Ecosystem Insights lab.
Great.
And if you want to bring someone with you, pull them along. This is a rainforest. Nothing is meant to be structured.
So we're gonna
It's
we're gonna
messy.
have you guys
Oh,
up here
it's a
literally for 2
rainforest.
minutes
Come.
2 minutes to just come and give some
Quick reflections.
some quick reflections on some of the key
Let's give
points
them a
that
round
came
of
up from the
applause. They're
room.
feeling
Come
a bit
on,
shy
let's
and
encourage
nervous.
them.
Let's just encourage them. Let's put some courage in them. All right, you can call a friend. Pull someone in the audience that was with you.
Find your way through the forest, through the rainforest. This is the puzzle. This is the challenge. There we go. Yay. Yay. Look at her getting notes from Catherine. Do we have a microphone?
We do. Lana, where's the second?
Lana
here
is
it
still looking at her notes like, this is not a test, my friend.
I need to be world class.
That is true. That is true. That was a great takeout.
Awesome.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
Okay, awesome. So the session was with Kathy.
Who are you? Which organization do you represent? In the rainforest?
Thanks, Seth. I work for Seth, basically.
It's
why he picks on me. So I'm Lana Franks, and I'm the Program Design and Impact Assurance Manager for Allen Gray Makers. So we cook up fun and impactful programs for artisan entrepreneurs. So it was really great to be in Kathy's session because apparently they've got the secret to success. And so, yeah, I jotted a few points. Kathy, thank you for years of just, is it how many years collectively?
20.
20. And, you know, their success rate, and I need to say this because it helps.
Very important.
87.3% of their businesses are still active, you know. And so, yeah, some of the key takeouts. So that's their survival rate, and I think it's good for us. I mean, maybe for you, as you think about it, could you plot? Do you have a timeline? Have you tracked your businesses to that extent where you can say, this is our success rate? And I think that's an important reflection for us to gather that kind of data because it helps us learn. So it was just a thought for me. And okay, cool. 6 critical components for lasting economic success. So Kathy just spoke about ecosystem insights as well. This was an interesting one. I know I only have 2 minutes. I mustn't repeat the whole masterclass. But this local multiplier effect was really interesting is around this circular economy where it's not linear, you know, and so how do we keep money circulating within the network of entrepreneurs, you know, something interesting to think about. How do we cultivate, how do we enhance collaboration between the businesses in our ecosystem is a question I was sitting with. How do we intentionally create that and improve it? And then I think there's so much to say, but selection is a very big part of the success of your program, that selection effect. And so they spend a lot of time just figuring out how to select the right jockey. It makes programming easier. And so I think they've really got a fantastic recipe for that. So I've just given you like a high level, but get the book, read the book. You've got the book.
You've got the book.
Read the book. And I think, I honestly, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let's learn from one another. And I think, thank you for being generous with your insights.
Yeah.
That's good.
Really
Fantastic.
helpful.
Yeah. Woo! Go for Tola.
Nice.
Thanks, Lance.
Awesome afternoon, everyone. My name is Tabogo Borre, and I'm part of the Learning and Innovation team. I'll share some brief takeaways from the masterclass we had upstairs. It was a very practical session where all the attendees were able to engage with the 10 ecosystem conditions. So you would have all received them in your welcome pack yesterday, and each of the different provinces were profiled. So instead of leading with the data, all the participants were given an opportunity to see how would I rate Northwest Gauteng Free State, and then after that, they were quite shocked, some of them, to see what the actual data says. So it was interesting to note everybody found the data that was shared very mind-blowing. It's groundbreaking work that Pumlani and Isaac have been doing. And some of the key takeaways was how in the provinces that are doing very poorly in some of the conditions, government is the biggest provider of the whole ecosystem, or the biggest spender in those. So in provinces where government is the biggest spender, in some of the conditions they're not doing very well. So you're more than welcome to look in your pack regarding the 10 conditions as well, and maybe try and apply those 10 conditions to the province that you're in, or the sector or the industry that you're in as well, so that you can see this is the framework that can be applied in the sphere of work that I'm in. So Prof. Isaac and Dr. Pumlani also shared about the different research works that they're doing, which will also be shared so everybody can have a better understanding of the work that's being done by the center as well, and how to really build an ecosystem of entrepreneurship in South Africa. Thank you.
Amazing.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love to hear it. Thank you, team.
Very
I think
well said.
some really, really great insights. We popped into the various sessions at different parts, but there was something beautiful that was, there were some case studies that were shared about how China has done this and how they've been intentional in terms of, building those collaborative models in those spaces, and also how we should be empowering, not because we feel sorry for an entrepreneur and just want to give them an opportunity, but because we've actually sat down and looked at, as you said, the best jockey in terms of the plans. There was someone who said yesterday, I think it was the National Youth Development Agency, the project plan piece,
Yeah.
and the mentorship, and that was really interesting. And then what I thought was also very interesting about the upstairs session is that the data itself, I know we sit a lot and we talk about there's no data on this and there's no data on that. Guys, we are the data. Like, if we are not on the ground doing the work, talking to the people, getting the insights, and then maybe sharing them in a way that someone like a prof and a doc can consolidate and analyze. But we are the context. We are the
Bridge builders.
We are the moss in the forest. We're the stuff in between. We're the connected roots. You know what I'm saying? So if you're looking like I can't see the wood for the trees, get into the
tree.
Get there. There.
Inside.
Be within.
Somewhere there.
Just get in there.
In the rainforest.
In the rainforest. That's it. Get down and get dirty.
Beautiful.
And that's where the data is going to come from. It's going to come from us actually having those conversations. So that's great reflections. And now it's time for
the last panel session for the day.
Very exciting panel discussion.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Technicolor, which is an initiative of Alan and Geogray Philanthropies. And it was, Zim referenced it earlier, Bronwyn Williams and the Flux Trend Group kind of helped us see our enterprise, or our sectors through the lens of colors. And this initiative, which you'll hear more in a moment, was trying to focus on the gray economy, to look at organizations that were helping young people start and grow enterprises. And I'm really excited for our moderator, Nyakalo Merafe, who's been involved in the process. Can you give her a round of applause as she welcomes the panel? Thank you. Have fun.
So sorry.
Hi, hello. Thanks for coming back. Thank you. My name is Nyakalo Merafe. I will be the moderator for this conversation. I'm going to ask for our esteemed panelists to join us. You guys can come up, take a seat anywhere you feel comfortable. Please welcome our brilliant partners in this initiative. Come through, Mr. Kadzai, Samantha, Rest, Nomfundo. You can take a seat anywhere. So unfortunately, Anjani couldn't join us, but Nomfundo is here, so we are championing along. I just wanted to give a little bit of context before we really jump in. So if you recall yesterday, we were speaking about a very scary and very real statistic, right? That there are 30 million people in South Africa who live under the upper poverty line. So that's less than 1,000 rand a month. That is a terrifying statistic. But what's important is by being clear on the problem and quantifying what it is that you're trying to solve for, you really have the opportunity to then say, how do I build solutions that are replicable, that can scale, that are mutually reinforcing? And so Technicolor became this opportunity for us because we know it's not going to be a silver bullet that solves that kind of a problem, but we also know we have the opportunity to attack that problem from varying perspectives. So as we shared that we worked with the Flux Trends team, and they were sharing about the various sectors where there's huge opportunity. And so then we said we need to think about an initiative that takes this sector-based approach, right? And really saying which sectors allow us to build for entrepreneurship success, right? Where entrepreneurship can thrive, where there's a potential and an opportunity for job creation or employment generation. So not just the people starting their businesses, them going on to create income earning opportunities. And how do we really then go into spaces where often others are not playing, right? The sectors that often aren't really invested in. And so it's been an interesting and a fascinating journey. We started with an informal sector because we know, I think Zach gave us a stat that 89% of the continent operates in the informal sector, right? So there's no point in solutioning in spaces and places where we aren't finding ourselves, where we aren't seeing ourselves. And so that's really what Technicolor has started with and the work that we're trying to do. And so the panel today, these are our partners in this initiative. It has been just over 2 years of this work, and I think there's been 2 cohorts that have been brought into this amazing initiative, and we are building, we are growing, we are learning. We recently had a learning lab in KZN in July of this year, and we realized we didn't know half of the things that we thought we knew. And so we're excited to see how much more we can build and grow. All of you should have seen some of those cards on your seats. I'm going to ask and encourage that you please, please, please share an idea if something sparks, because they're going to share incredible insights from their organizations and their work. And I really want to make sure that we capture our thinking, our ways to collaborate, and our ways to build together. And so in the conversation today, really, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves very quickly and their organizations, and then we're going to have this conversation around what does scaling with substance look like in the informal sector? What does it mean to do this work? And really, the connection for us at AGPSA is to say, again, there are lessons to learn from each other. There are ways we can collectively impact on the size of the problem. And if we do that in a practical way, in a collaborative way, we can then start to say that 1 to 45% that we've been speaking about, where you can scale your solutions, we really can do that. We really can meet that need and make a dent, right, in that 30 million. It seems impossible if you're doing it alone, but when you build with intention and in a collaborative way, there really is potential for something to come. So I'm going to start with you, Samantha, and I'm going to ask our panel to just introduce themselves very briefly and the work they do, and then we're going to have a really enriching conversation about all the work that they're doing and the lessons they've learned.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I'm Samantha Bailey. I work with CSA Trust, and we partner with smallholder rural farmers in KZN and Mpumalanga in the Eastern Cape to strengthen local food systems and livelihoods by providing training, mentorship, and market linkages primarily. So 2 of the key barriers to farmers accessing markets are being able to, as a smallholder farmer, being able to supply consistently to keep your agreement, your space in that particular market. Also, to be able to have food-safe packaging facilities, storage facilities. So CSA created community farmer network, we call it CFN, as a social enterprise to be able to try help fill this gap. And it's in incubation phase still, with very valuable support from AGGPSA, for which we are very grateful. And it was designed as a type of food hub that would aggregate and sell farmers' produce into both formal and informal markets, while developing processed products to add value. And those have been puffing ancient grains. There's a surprising amount of interest in them, we've discovered, as well as powdering vegetables such as beetroot, turmeric, moringa. So the reality has looked different from what we were expecting. So to operate between farmers and markets carries costs. And CFN has a commitment to fair trade and to paying farmers fair prices. So what we have discovered over time is that while Sears Caesar is training increasing numbers of farmers, the number of farmers selling directly to CFN is declining. And because many of them are now selling directly to local customers and retailers because they get higher margins, we've become, in a sense, a middleman, or CFN has. So this has reduced CFN's supply base, and to stay consistent with their product lines, they are supplementing from Sears Caesar's own demonstration market garden, as well as buying from the Durban fresh produce market, which is a short-term fix. This isn't sustainable over the long term. So another interesting piece is that in terms of equipment, and this is something CFN faces, but it's also the small enterprises that we support. To puff grains, your kind of entry-level, it looks like a cannon. It's a really weird machine. Costs 100,000 Rand. It's very bizarre. It also breaks down quite frequently. The next level up is 7 million. From 100,000 to 7 million. Our grain mill is a 40,000 Rand machine, which we encourage our entrepreneurs who want to go into milling to, that's a good model to go for. The next one up, 4 million. So this is just from an equipment perspective, there are serious setbacks, and CFN has been feeling it itself as well as Sears Caesar in our dealings with the entrepreneurs we work with. Then the ancient grains. So many of you are likely aware that indigenous grains are really growing in popularity in cities. This is not the case in rural communities. So the damage that colonialism wrought in devaluing indigenous foods is still raw in rural communities. And recently, Sears Caesar did workshops on indigenous grain production, and we really struggled to find local farmers who remembered the traditional growing methods, which aren't that long ago. It's not that long ago, but they're disappearing, that knowledge. So because few farmers are growing these grains, CFN is currently buying from big companies to keep this market linkage that we've created for puff grains open. So Sears Caesar is currently doing a pilot in Mpumalanga with 16 cooperatives to test growing sorghum and millet on more scale. We're hoping that CFN then gets this as a supply, but we're also going to combine it with education in those communities, because we also are focused on local food systems, around a high nutrient value of these indigenous foods, their climate resiliency, their health benefits. So we may, quite frankly, be creating local market demand for it, and there won't be any sales to CFN. So this is part of our dilemma sometimes between Sears Caesar, the non-profit, and CFN, the social enterprise, and trying to figure out its role. So what we're learning is that, for example, when I was saying declining numbers of farmers selling directly to Sears Caesar, this year so far, we've paid farmers 40,000 for direct sales. But we're finding that we can play a valuable role as a market facilitator. So with Boxer stores, they're a little nervous about buying from smallholder farmers. If we step into that relationship as an intermediary and say, okay, we'll check for quality, we know the quality you want, and we'll invoice you, they much more readily buy. CFN's currently charging a 5% administrative fee to that, and then passing the rest of the payment on to farmers. We've got to see how sustainable this is, because the quality assurance does take legs on ground, or feet on ground. But that has facilitated 400,000 rands worth of payments to farmers this year so far. So you can see the growing demand for that. We're doing a lot more exploration of niche market development and looking at helping our farmers think about diversifying their crops. So they've got fresh produce here, they're selling into the local communities, and they've got a field of organic turmeric, so they can sell that to CFN, get it powdered. There's a very particular high-end market for that. We're looking at actually developing agroecology inputs, such as liquid natural fertilizers, to try and compete with the chemical options available out there and see if we can do it affordably. We're also really needing to deepen our understanding of informal markets. And interestingly, the route we're finding into that is through traders, the trader networks. They're incredibly, they sit with so much information, so much great information. And then we're trying to figure and explore with our farmers, how do we keep food sovereignty, like really developing local food systems, strengthening them front and center, as well as figuring out ways to make sure that their businesses are resilient over time. And this feels very echoing of Motse's, mission of connected ecosystems, shared learning. It feels like CSSESA and CFN are really living that learning right now. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Kudzai, we'll go to you next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's a pleasure to be a part of this important and so far fruitful dialogue. My name is Kudzai Rujua, as already mentioned, and I'm with Pagamani Foundation. I'm serving as the Chief Financial Officer for that organization. I'm also the Development Microfinance Association of South Africa. Pagamani Foundation has been in business for the last 17 years and was founded by Mark and Shirley Tucker. Now, the objective of the organization is to see a reduction in poverty and unemployment. Within that are also several SDGs that we see, global issues that we see being addressed in tandem. We see financial inclusion, financial literacy. We're also in the business of just ensuring that our clients, they're supported with loans that ultimately lead to them having an employment, a job. And so we see employment as part of what we are aiming to reduce. Now, as we all know, in South Africa, the Gini coefficient, the measure of inequality, is very high. It's the highest actually in South Africa. We see a reduction in that as well because of the funding that we are providing these women in rural communities. So there is a stimulation of the local economy as we inject funding, and our services and products are not only limited or restricted to loans, but we also support our clients with training. We call this combined product as a side-by-side walk. So we issue microloans. And I was quite fascinated yesterday by Ms. Williams' presentation. She mentioned something quite interesting around how Africa, the forex influx that's coming into Africa in total aggregated, is coming from remittance flows, just small amounts. So as Pagamani Foundation, we issue microloans of between 1,000 and 50,000 to our clients. To date, we've supported over 200,000 women, and we believe that the overall impact of that is 1 million individuals in South Africa having been supported. Why women, you may ask? It's not because we are sexist, but the gender inequality in our country is real. And we believe that once you serve or support a woman, you've actually supported the entire household. Thank you. Yeah, so with the Development Microfinance Association of South Africa, one of our prerogatives is to ensure that there is a clear distinction between development microfinance institutions and microfinance institutions. In South Africa, there's over 2,500 MFIs, microfinance institutions, while there's only a handful of development microfinance institutions. And quite a lot of academicians are coming out to say there must be a clear distinction between these two type of entities. And the reason for that is we do need to see an improvement in state support in various forms, including policy support, legislative support, and we believe that that intervention will see development microfinance rise to the levels that it has in other countries, in other parts of the continent, in East Asia, where it's doing so well. It's been used to reduce poverty, all the social ills you can think of, the structured features in our economy. We've seen different nations addressing those using development microfinance. And so we would love to see a lot of support come through from the state. And we do appreciate the already existing support structures, including our fellow partners from Allen Gray. They've been supporting us, and amongst others. And yeah, so for now, I do want to appreciate the fact that everyone in this room seems to have this focus on alleviating some of these issues that we're facing as a country. And we are trying to do it from the informal, real economy sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to move to you, Nomfundo.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, you get me today. You don't get Ange. I am Nomfundo Mkhonto, and I am the project lead at WomHub. That means that usually I'm not on this side of the platform. I'm usually sitting there scribbling. But at WomHub, WomEng, you'll hear me use those interchangeably. Basically, what we do is we support women in STEM. And I was actually quite worried that I would have to fit a whole dialogue into like a short introduction, and my colleagues here were like, no. So I am going to take my time as well. So what we do is we work, I'm sorry, I'm very awkward. I am very awkward. What we do at WomHub is we work in 4 pillars. We have the talent pipeline, entrepreneurship pipeline, spaces, and capital. And under the talent, usually we get this question everywhere we go, do you guys hire? Are you guys a recruitment agency? No, we are not. We are looking at the talent pipeline differently. We want to solve for the problems of the future. We want to give solutions for the problems of the future by making sure that the talent is ready in the future. So what we do is that we run technovation camps for high school learners. We run career fairs for high school learners just to get them more into STEM, make it exciting, make it approachable, right? Give them real life role models that look like them, that talk like them. Nomfundo from Ekasi, who dresses like a tomboy, she has a space there. And Nomfundo, who's girly and likes nails and likes doing her hair, not today, but he loves doing her hair. And she also has a space and a voice and a part to play in that ecosystem. We then have our fellowship programs that looks at university students. What we found with our research is that it's not that women are not studying. It's not that they're not qualifying for these careers or these spaces. It's that they are, and when they find that because of the hostility that they face, they actually leave those spaces. So it's around building that cognitive skills, that behavioral skill for them to be able to be sustained and retained in those communities. And then we have entrepreneurship, which I think most of us are here for today, which is looking at how we support female entrepreneurs in STEM. And as my colleague has said, it's not that we are saying women because we want to exclude the other gender, but it's really about making sure that the field is level, right? Making sure that we all stem from a level field so that we grow together, right? And we look at male champions as well in that space who are championing the work that we do. And we concentrate on STEM, particularly in South Africa, because we feel like that's where the jobs of the future are coming from. So yeah, that is STEM. And then there's an exciting one that I love. Everyone who's spoken to me today, I've just been telling you to come to our hubs. We have 3 hubs in Johannesburg, Cape Town, and East London. And all those hubs are strategically placed and And everything inside the hubs are strategically thought of because we want to support women and meet them where they're at. So if you look at any of our hubs, whether you're in Cape Town, whether you're in East London, or in Joburg, we make sure that you have a junior engineers hub so that a parent, whether male or female, if they have a meeting that they quickly have to take, they work from home and they just have their kid with them, you have no planned, you haven't planned for childcare, you can come to any of our hubs, be able to work, be able to have your child there as well in a safe environment. We have menopause rooms in our spaces to make sure that if you do need to take that bit of a time off to cool down or think about something, or you just want to scream, right? They all noise, or they're all protected against noise. And then we also have lactation rooms for breastfeeding moms. I'm a new mom myself. He's 10 months old. I'll show you all pictures. And one of the struggles of being a new mom is actually feeling like when something happens to baby, you feel like shutting down, especially in a workspace, especially in a professional space. And you want to keep your professional image and still want to show up for your child, right? So it's around having that space to do that freely where you are supported. And it's also around collaboration, right? Our spaces are made for us to collaborate with other entrepreneurs, with other ecosystem builders, and so on and so forth, so that we connect that whole ecosystem. And one of the most exciting things that we've done as well is that we've partnered with Cisco. And that's actually bringing technology into the hands of the South African woman, right? Imagine you need to take a meeting, right? And you need to look professional for you to actually get that grant, get that contract, get that customer, right? And you won't feel like, oh, they can come to my bedroom where I've set up a small office for me to work on, and they'll be like, this looks unprofessional. So you have access to world-class tech in our spaces where you can have meeting rooms and boardrooms and all this tech. Like we have, my favorite one is the virtual room where you can connect anywhere in the world, right, with these super, super interactive boards. And then lastly, we have Capital. And Capital as well, it's around not only educating the entrepreneur, but also educating the ecosystem itself. This is educating your banks, your financial service providers, the people that are actually handling the money, right? Because what we found is that there is a disconnect from what the entrepreneur expects and what the financial services providers expect, right? Especially in the South African context. I was in a session a few weeks ago, and we're having this amazing session. It's for women in the financial sector. And the first thing, what's the first recommendation for you when you're raising capital? If somebody can, what's the first advice? Ask from family and friends. We don't have family and friends that have that sort of money, right? So it's around just that lobbying and making sure that not only do the financial services provider know what the entrepreneur in South Africa needs, but the entrepreneur as well is coming to the table. We don't want more of the tender or the grantpreneurs where you on every grant imaginable, because when do you actually run your business and make money, right? So we do have that accountability piece, that education piece, but also, guys, putting money where we need it the most, and which is putting money into women's hands, right? It seems like our money does yoga, guys, or something. Like our money goes to gym, guys, because our money is able to go so far, right? So like, you give me 100 rand, I can give you 5 days worth of meals, right, as a woman, because it's just that we are able to do more because we are the custodians of our communities, we are the custodians, and we have that burden of care of actually having to make our money stretch. So those are the 4 pillars that we work under, and I'm just excited to be part of this panel and getting to learn about each and every one of here.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. And finally, rest.
Nyakalo, I bet you're not ready for this. Your whole script is thrown out of the window, man.
No, we roll with
it. That's beautiful. It's the power of the tongue.
Yeah,
the forest.
Yes, exactly. The moss creeping through, right?
That's it. It's the forest. I bet none of you know what a forest is. So I'm the only one here who works in the forest. My name is Rest Kanju. I run a company called Indalo Inclusive South Africa. We work in the bush. We work in the green space. We basically support, or are established to identify, support, and promote what we call eco-inclusive entrepreneurship across different landscapes of South Africa. And we've given ourselves a very, painful task of working in far-flung rural areas of this country. So if you want to know places like Kamtoboa, if you've ever heard of a place like that. In English, it's called Kamdibu. We are there if you want to hear about Mkanduli. We work in that space. We work in Port St. John's, Lusikisiki, Matatial, Pushback Ridge, Toyando, Venda, those kind of spaces. Any place you've ever never thought it exists in South Africa, we are there, including Kakamas in the Northern Cape. So we have a landscape and a footprint that covers different spaces in South Africa. But our work is anchored on two pillars. The first pillar, interestingly enough, is called ecosystem development, support, and therein we work not just only in the policy landscape, but we work in collaboration with a number of partners, because we do believe that for entrepreneurship to thrive, which is our second pillar, entrepreneurship, for entrepreneurship to thrive, you need an ecosystem that is really conducive for that to happen. So what do we mean by an ecosystem, at least in our definition? We mean all players. We mean business development support services, so we spend a lot of time developing expertise and training business development service providers to understand the kind of tools that we have, our methodology, our ethos, because we've realized that entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship, but where we work is very much niche. It's a niche area, and it's quite critical that we are able to equip people who are otherwise confident about entrepreneurship support with the kind of work that we do, so that when you then go and support our entrepreneurs, we can actually identify that you are an entrepreneur. You are actually someone who comes from our stable. So we work with partners, we collaborate with people who otherwise could be called competitors. We're not afraid to share our tools. We actually give our tools for free to anyone. We're not afraid to share our secrets, and I'll share some of those with you today. And I think that has helped us to grow as an organization. We work with government, we work in the police space. So specifically in South Africa, we are very much immersed in the discussions around climate change, both at international level, national, and actually even at local government level. We don't work against government. I think we're very clear about that. We work in support of our policies, because we have no shortage of policy. But I think what is actually a problem in this country is the implementation of those policies and creating systems that actually enable government to implement those kind of policies. So that's what ecosystem for us is about. We actually convene platforms such as this. That's why I'm really excited by this. We're a flagship event called the Indalo Symposium, where anybody and everybody comes in and curate, work with us to showcase the work that you do. We also showcase the work that we do, because we do believe when we do that, we're opening up opportunities and space for entrepreneurs, to connect, in the ecosystem. What we don't promote, though, is, serial incubators. We hate them. I'll come back to that in a moment. Too soon, right? Maybe hate is a very strong word. But we discourage that, yeah. So we're based in Pretoria. We're headquartered in Pretoria. We have a small team of about 20, but we also have two other offices, what we call regional offices. The first one is in the Greater Kruger landscape, the real forest in the Savannah biome. We work there with enterprises that are on the periphery of protected areas. The Kruger Park, for example, your high-end tourism facilities such as the Mbavati Services. One of the biggest things that you'll actually see in those spaces is the gap between the haves and the have-nots. If you think Cape Town gives you that, or St. Alexandra gives you that, you must come to Bushbuck Ridge. You will actually literally feel and taste and see wealth and opulence versus serious need and poverty. So we work in those spaces where we connect entrepreneurs to become part of the tourism value chain and become real suppliers of goods and services. Can give you a lecture around that type of stuff because that's my passion and I come from that area. But we work basically on the western bound of the Kruger, from down in Malalana up to Punda Maria in Limpopo, in the confluence of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. But we also work in Matatiel in the Eastern Cape, and Ismangaliso on pro-nature and biodiversity economy. We work with a number of organizations there. We are inundated every day around identifying entrepreneurs that actually turn eco-inclusive entrepreneurial ideas into real economic impact, something that really brings net positive value on the environment, but also create jobs, create local economies, and the likes. And maybe the one thing I should mention is that we're an organization that is growing, that is quite innovative. We have a small team of about 20, but in there we have a number of portfolios, and we innovate time and again. And one of those things that possibly you would have heard about us, we work with Nedbank, and we co-own and we've curated, in fact, 2 funds now. One is called the Nedbank Indalo Fund that really provides for opportunities for entrepreneurs to scale. So we can talk about scale. You ask about scale at some point. With recoverable grants. They're not loans, they're grants, but they're recoverable. 0% interest, so I'm giving you some secrets now. 0% interest. You can come talk to me about how we've modeled that. And we're excited because a typical fund, normally they would tell you would not run the fund at less than 50 million rand, because a fund normally works on a particular margin, at least 2.5 to 4% margin. We actually run a fund that actually is not based on that, with a 40% write-off, and still becomes sustainable. So we've got some secrets behind that, on how that works. So we're excited about that, and it's growing. It's due for recapitalization in 2 months' time. Our recovery rate is actually sitting at just over 90%. So we're excited about that. But the second fund is also called the Energy Resilience Fund. So we work with different partners. So last year we learned with IDC on how do we solve for the challenge of electricity and entrepreneurs who are struggling from load shedding as a result of load shedding, or even load reduction, or in fact access to energy to run their operations. So we provided some infrastructure, electrical infrastructure for entrepreneurs. But we decided this year we're going to work with Nedbank to not just give stuff for free, right? We're working with entrepreneurs that really do want to, convert. They don't have the resources, but then they can't afford. So we give them the required, electrical or infrastructure that they require, and they pay us back over a 5-year period. We made it 5 years so that it's just so simple to pay. And it's not expensive. The minimum is that it's got to achieve at least 40% reduction on your electricity bill, on your electricity spend. So that's the kind of criteria we are using. And of course, we work with a number of partners. What Alan and Jill Gray Philanthropies has done for us is also to begin to help us ask ourselves some very serious questions. That if we are working across the board with a number of donors and all that type of stuff, how do we actually deal with this issue? Because a lot of you here, I'm giving you a secret now, a lot of these NPCs and NGOs, they double dip a lot. Right? So how do we ensure that we are true to ourselves and we don't double dip when we count numbers, right? But how do we make sure that I can fully and truthfully account to my different donors, right? And they can see performance of their entrepreneurs and the people that they are supporting without me starting to speak gibberish or chew oxygen as I speak, right? I need to be able to truthfully, give you data that is valid. So we've basically developed an M&E system, and you can argue that why didn't you go to Power BI, why didn't you go to this one, why didn't you go to that one? We're not copycats. I don't like that. We want to create something that is ours. And the reason why we actually did that as a last point is because we began to be asked a question that says, yes, you can't give us an ROI because we're a development organization, but we want an SROI, a social return on investment. Now, if any of you have actually asked M&E experts to help you calculate an SROI, I promise you they would have quoted you, if not millions, at least 500,000 to be able to do that. So we got tired because not only don't we have that kind of money, but it just doesn't make logical sense for me to actually, every time I have to go, if I want to do my SRI, I need to go and find a consultant to come and help me with the SRI. So we basically disrupted the system. We've paid the first consultant to help us with an SRI calculation. and we've built into our system. So if you actually want to have our system come in, we'll probably give you, it will be a fraction of what we've paid, but then you have a permanent platform for SRI calculation, right? And you don't need to go to any consultant anymore. You can do it in-house, and it will help you aggregate, it will help you extrapolate whatever data you want. You can do correlations and that type of stuff. So maybe the last point, for example, what we heard yesterday from the CEO of NYDA, this registered to me because it's actually a question that we're trying to ask ourselves. He says he read a book that actually told him that to be a successful entrepreneur, you must at least work and gain experience for at least 7 years. We, at least from our own database, there is actually a correlation between skills, jobs, the number of years of experience in work, and success of an enterprise, by the way. So if someone comes up from high school and say, I want to be an entrepreneur, the chances of them failing is a lot higher than a person who's just done that. How do we know that? Because our data tells us that. So we've got correlation, coefficients that we can calculate on the system, and we can tell you stuff, right? And and maybe last point I want to mention, because I think we've 10 minutes left, is that I actually also got tired as the head of an organization when you work with multiple teams, and every time a potential funder comes and says, give us numbers on this, or even a current donor says, give me numbers on this, and I still have to ask people around, right? I no longer have to do that. I can actually, myself on my desk, pull out the numbers, share with you. In fact, the donor can access that number themselves without asking me, right? And they can compare themselves, against other programs that we have, and they can see the performance of all of that. But we can also say, if we want growth and high-impact enterprises, how do we know they're high-impact enterprises? And we can actually pull that and be able to report on that. We can produce articles. We can do a source of analysis. So we are that kind of an organization that wants to reflect and want to learn. It's not a perfect system because we realize it actually requires a lot of resources to actually manage. But yeah, that's the kind of work that we do as Indalo. Let me stop there for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those very detailed and rich introductions and descriptions of the work that you're doing. I hope that you guys could see the value of having, mutually reinforcing organizations collaborating to a shared goal, really with Technicolor, like we said. What we're trying to ensure we can achieve is that new ventures can start and existing ventures can grow. And all of that to culminate into that impact, right? Remember, we've got that scale goal that we need to achieve. But we need to have this really clear depth of knowledge around what's happening in our local ecosystems, what sectors are thriving, how we really build solutions that can, collaborate. And I think, when Bronwyn was speaking, and even this morning, that idea that iron sharpens iron, right? So there's that sense of tension where you want a little bit of edge and competition, but such that you collaborate well. Our roots can't go that deep alone, but we need to interlock so that we find that depth. And we're finding this, really shining in our Technicolor work. Matthew, I want to pick on you because of the conversation we had. So Matthew's another partner in the portfolio, and he was sharing something incredible since our last engagement. And I really wanted him to be able to just share, because again, it's speaking to this idea of this mutually reinforcing and supporting work, really finding ways to say, what role am I playing in the sector or in the ecosystem, such that we collaborate effectively to a shared goal and a shared outcome. And then following that, any questions, any comments, any thoughts, please do raise your hand. Okay, we have a couple. So I'm going to start. I just want to ask Matthew to share that and very quickly about the organization you're with, so that everyone can see when we say we're trying to work towards the shared impact, what we mean.
All right. Thank you, Nakalo, and thank you, everyone. I think first I just want to say thank you to everyone here. It's been amazing to feel the engagement, to meet so many people so committed to this shared work. And thank you, Nakalo, the Motse team, everyone at Alan and Jill Gray Philanthropies. I mean, I think I start there because the story that I just want to share a little bit about is I think, a testament to the vision of collaboration, the vision of an ecosystem, the vision of a rainforest, and that vision is bearing fruit. So I represent an organization called SocioNext. We are part of the Technicolor initiative. And we help young people in underserved communities to start and grow small businesses. We have an integrated activation and acceleration methodology. And one of the areas that we work is Bushbuck Ridge. And I was having a conversation with Rest a little bit earlier, where he asked and said, okay, well, we need to have a chat, because one of the entrepreneurs that have graduated, or was about to graduate from our accelerator program this year, pitched for their supply development program. And she's an amazing entrepreneur. She has an incredible story. And to see the linkage in our ecosystem, to see how we can formalize arrangements and be intentional about how we can interconnect and share our work and collaborate. I think it was a beautiful testament, and I was sharing that with Inyakalo earlier, and I'm excited to chat more with you about that, Rest, because I think it holds so much promise and so much potential, and I'm just really grateful to be a part of this shared work and also the pioneering work that you guys are doing, because I think there's few that are really trying to be as intentional about creating a shared ecosystem of mutual work. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate that you've been able to make that linkage and really bring it to life. And that's really the 4D structure that Bronwyn was speaking to, right? Where you've got to have the messaging, you've got to have all of those 4 elements playing together really well in the ecosystem. So it's great to see all these pieces starting to connect and come together. I'm going to go to the floor. There's a question here, and then there was one at the back. If you can, again, just share your name and then share your question.
So my name is Tanya Reid. I only know one person in the room, that's Kino Kamis. We met at Carnival City, and Rihanna, who invited me, sitting next to him, and a few people I met. So this is my first event with you guys. Thank you for inviting me. It was really great. So in terms of what you guys were discussing, scaling with substance and the informal sector. Since COVID, the industry that suffered the most is the entertainment industry. We weren't allowed to have events, we weren't allowed to perform, we weren't allowed to earn money. Fortunately, the arts actually gave a project. So the gentleman who did the poem yesterday, I also forgot your name, I'm sorry. I gave him a product of that project where it was actually run properly with women from Kiani, local artists. He did the accounting himself, Reed Music Productions. I happen to be married to him, but anyway. And I just find like local musicians and sound engineers are not being used the way they can be. Some of them have become farmers in different spaces because it's a club, right? So you're either in the club or you're not. And I worked at Sun International. I know the caliber of what can be done, but I also know it's a booty system, for lack of a better word. And so I just want to implore that idea. You've got people that work with the likes of Lira and TKZ and Vusi Kamalo. Understand that. What I'm going to do in terms of when I'm done with my degree, I want to implore anyone here who's got an LLB, help take people like Jermaine and the guys here to also have their hospitality rider in, to have their requirements, transport, etc., if they don't already have it. And the idea that I want to put forward to you, it's coffee and maize. There's a guy called Neo, I couldn't find his number, I was looking for it. He's already in the maize space. He's a very wealthy guy in KZN, but he's all over in Swaziland as well. Coffee, I know we've got a Kenyan lady here, but I think there's so many opportunities in coffee for young people. I'm sure this coffee guy, if he sold today, would have made, the last 2 days would have made a lot of money. And unfortunately, in the farming space, the hawks are raiding the farms, the way we've got plant medicine, so CBD products. And a lot of people are in pain, but at the same time, the hawk should be here checking if there's any of us that shouldn't be here. But also, why are you destroying something that someone built from the ground? Because a tree grows up and it grows down. And it's like, we're talking about grassroots, but we're cutting people at their ankles. So it's more comment, ideas. Thank you for your time. And don't forget your neighbor, Namibia. That's where I'm originally from. We can also teach you a few things about farming and water.
Thank you so much for that comment and that reflection. I think just to share again, the idea with Technicolor is to really understand various sectors. We have started in the informal. We really want to be able to understand what does this look like, what does this potentially evolve into as we understand various sectors. So please be on the lookout. Hopefully we end up in the creative sector soon. But the idea really is, what does it take for new businesses to start and existing businesses to grow in those various sectors? And what role should the ecosystem be playing as we do that work? Okay, there's another question there. And then in the corner at the back.
Debbie Cockrell once again. My question really is to the panel, to the room, to the ecosystem builders at Motse. I've been on a journey for the past 10 years around social entrepreneurship. And I'm not hearing enough of that come through when we talk about entrepreneurship, but I am hearing a hell of a lot of crossover in the social sector, the economic challenges, the environmental challenges. So my question, I suppose, or my thoughts or my wondering is 10 years in for myself and where this journey goes, and we look at other countries where they're 30, 40 years into the social enterprise sort of language. At which point do we shift? Do we need to shift? Is there scope for social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs to be considered in the same conversation? I see two organizations representing food security, green economy. Does that fall to enterprise under farming? Or does it fall to social entrepreneurs under job creation, environmental custodianship, food security, SDG goals? Those are the questions I'm having a little bit of curiosity about. So just to leave that here, we don't have to, solve it, answer it right now, but I'm really curious to know, in this beautiful rainforest of variety, can we have a little bit more space for the Technicolor social entrepreneurs? Thank you.
Love that, Technicolor social entrepreneur. I don't know if anyone in the panel has a comment towards that or any thought they'd like to share.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, do you want to?
No, you start.
I love that question. So, we deal with that type of stuff. We deal with eco-inclusive or social and green entrepreneurship. I think the question that I always ask is, what is social entrepreneurship? So people have got different definitions. You can go into academic space, they'll define it, But the IDC is very interesting. So they have a particular definition on this one. And they look at it at two levels. One is, you've got to be solving a social problem. So there must be a social problem that exists, and you're solving that, and you're basically monetizing, right? You're generating revenue out of that, and the profits from that then goes back into continually, working within that space. But the second part of the definition is an incorporation definition, it's an institutional definition. So what that means is, how will you call yourself a social enterprise if you are a PTY? And you are a sole director and you take profits to yourself. So the IDC will then say, for you to be called a social enterprise, we want you to be registered as a social organization, right? As an NPC, right? Or whatever, right? Or even if in your PTY, you've got to demonstrate that you're not drawing, or certain profits goes into, basically back into the functioning operations of the organization and continuing to solve that particular problem. We have a number of those in the country. It's a very expensive, social entrepreneurship is a very expensive type of enterprise, right, operation. Because most of that work, actually, it's supposed to be social services provided by government in most cases. So how do you then start balancing all of that type of stuff? So at Indalo, we call ourselves a social enterprise as well, and we unapologetically work as a hybrid organization. So we have a purely not-for-profit, but we also have a profit company in the same name. And I think, I'm hoping that people are going to start getting used to this type of stuff, right? European countries actually do that, because what then you can't talk social entrepreneurship if you're not actually having revenue generating, operations yourself to fund back your not-for-profit. And if you look at all of that, we can actually give you documentation that shows how money flows. And that becomes very important because I could then become this very rich founder and CEO, right? And it's a very tough space because it actually takes a very specific type of individuals to work within that space. Because money can be tempting. And if money comes, money has a potential of disappearing. So I think it's important that and I think it's a very important space. That kind of entrepreneurship helps sustain this country, and you could look at, early childhood development centers. I mean, honestly speaking, you've got to applaud those kind of people, and we're not doing enough to do that, right? You could, the work that you do, right? I mean, we're not doing enough to applaud and recognize that type of work and provide more support. It's very expensive. And the last point I want to make is very similar to what we call climate adaptation entrepreneurship, right? If you work in the climate adaptation space, all of that adaptation, innovation is very expensive. So you need a lot of money to actually do R&D, to achieve proof of concept. So funding and grants is required to de-risk in most of those spaces before enterprises actually achieve profitability.
Yeah, 100%. Can I ask that we hear this last question and then we can circle back to your comment? Yeah?
Thank you. My name is Jabulo Mashia.
Hi, Jabulo. Can you hold the mic closer to you?
Jabulo Mashia, can you hear me?
It's very soft. I think we're struggling.
Okay, my name is Jabulo Mashia.
Much better.
Currently a master's student at WITS. I'm studying African philanthropy. And to say on the social, what do we call them? Social entrepreneurs, right? And I have to say, SA is a unique case, right? So we need to redefine the meaning of social entrepreneurs in our country. We must start there. Because we're borrowing a lot of terms from the Western countries, right? And I'm here representing African philanthropy. And I'm saying the organization I'm also representing is African Kivuli Foundation. In terms of entrepreneurship, I believe entrepreneurship is the future for employment. We can discuss that, we can argue that, but it is the future for employment. Countries like Egypt, I was there, they have night markets which close around 3 a.m. In SA, people close around 8 p.m. So for us to actually be in a state of a functioning entrepreneurial ecosystem, we need to have policies that shift us to be a marketplace. The point that I wanted to go to is we must start basing our existence on research. The numbers never lie, and the data never lies. And for me, what I've discovered is young people are not lazy. They're just hungry for opportunities. And for the organizations that are vouching for women empowerment, I'm for them. But you're leaving the boy child behind. And this increases the crime rates and. But we don't focus on those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments.
Can I answer for the organizations that focus on women? Can I just, my esteemed colleague, can I just correct you there? It's not us leaving the boy child behind, but it's bringing along the girl child, right? The systems as they stand right now are not made for women that look, sound, and are like me. The fact that this morning when I had to come here, I took like almost 30 minutes debating if I should put on a wig for me to sit here, right? That's something that I go through every day, right? And if you look at me, actually, it's a funny thing. We're talking around a round table with one of the programs that we actually have with the Ellen and Jill Gray Philanthropies, which is the Khanyisa Bafazi program. It runs out of the Eastern Cape, and it's looking at really, really informal businesses. So umama that's selling beads by the road or veggies by the road, and how are we bringing them into this ecosystem, right? And the level of entry for women is just non-existent in that area. It's genuinely non-existent, where they don't even feel like they're businesses, where success does not look like running your own business, but success looks like actually getting employment, right? And if you look at, I have this lovely beadwork that I got from there. But if you look at actually, when we actually sat down with one of those women and we were finding out about her business that she runs, right? This is her empowering not only herself and her household, but empowering her community, right? And we compared it to the job that she wants. She's actually making more money as an entrepreneur. But because it's not quantified, people like her don't run businesses. People like her are not supposed to be successful, especially in the space that she's running in. She's just not running. So it's not a matter of us excluding anyone. It's saying, let's level the playing field, let's all come together, and let's see what we can come up with. And another thing is, if we have the same people in the room all the time, we're not going to get solutions, guys. We're talking about scale, right? I was not here yesterday, but I'm hearing you guys spoke a lot about scaling. And if we have the same Nomfundo and my team, and we do the same thing, we're not bringing other ecosystem players, we're not bringing the diversity in the room, we're just not going to get the solutions. We're going to get the same bridge that's going to be there, that's going to fall. We're going to get the same people. Let's be honest, guys, let's call a spade, right? If we look at the world around us, because we're always working from the same pot, that's why we fail. That's why we don't see the government actually coming through for people. The data that we saw earlier, I was one of the master classes, is that the three provinces, the bottom three provinces are the provinces that rely on the government. What does that tell you? It tells you that the government has been in power for 30 years. What has changed? Right? So coming together, bringing different voices, a choir is made out of different voices, and we all sing one tune, and we sing one song, and we can actually succeed.
Thank you. Okay. On that note, there's so many questions, but I'm being told I need to cut. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know this is an enriching conversation, but please, please, please don't disappear. We're still here. There's still time to engage and network. But I did also want to ask the rest of our partners. I see a couple around the room. If you could just stand up. I just, again, want you to know who else is part of Technicolor and the work that they're doing. So please, if you guys can take a moment to stand up. Matthew, and I just want to be able to celebrate the work that you're doing. Thank you guys so much for everything and for partnering with us, for doing the work that you do in the way that you do. It is very, very important that we are clear on the substance with which they do this work and the depth at which they do this work. And so we're really excited to see how the portfolio evolves and grows. As we said, it's about really understanding a sector, supporting and thinking about initiatives that allow for new business to start and for existing businesses to grow in various sectors. Thank you for your time. Thank you for staying. Thank you for engaging. Please look for us online and we'll share more resources and information. Thank you, guys. And thank you to our amazing panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such an enriching conversation. As you say,
Thank
Nyakalo,
you.
it really, really was. I don't know.
Well done.
Phone
well
for
done.
sale. You can't be a bigger klutz than me.
Fantastic.
Guys, you're still in the room. Give yourself a round of applause. Look around you.
Yes. I think, though, I might want to suggest we just quickly do everyone just stands up and stretches. Just a quick stretch. There you go. Just quick stretch. There you go.
Do you remember?
To the top. All right.
Someone said women's money is doing yoga, and he's now proving that men can also stretch and make us do yoga.
All right, now you can have a seat. There you go. Just to
Balancing
remove-
out the gender. Do you remember in varsity first year where they said, look to your left and look to your right? One of these people won't be around in second year. look to your left, look to the right. Eh? You are the last men standing.
Seriously.
You guys you've stayed the course, and we appreciate it, even with all the changes in schedule and delays. Thank you so very much. We're going to wrap up now. And before we go into those last reflections, we want Zim to please come up onto the stage and to close for us, because there's just some really important points that we'd like her to make. Please give a round of applause, our CEO.
Can I have the mic?
Can we have a mic for her? No.
Sorry, mic,
Can
please.
we just...
So I'm going to ask our team first, Ellen and Jill Gray Philanthropies, makers, please stand so everybody can see you, the great people behind the work. Woo! And also please go and, yes, there's another Nomfundo Faith, yeah. So these are the people, the amazing people behind the work, some at the back and everywhere, so that even as we leave, if you still want to have conversations and all of that, please do grab any one of them, ask any questions that you might want to ask. So I was also just thinking about what might be the gift for people who stay till the end.
Oh.
So I thought about one. So you've got a card. You get an opportunity to suggest a speaker or a topic. Where's head of finance? They don't hear me. Regardless of where they are in the world, that you'd like to see at the next Motse.
Oh.
There's your card. Please write.
Trevor Noah, thanks so much.
Obama.
Kodwa ke noko sizame that expectations zethu moderate them a little bit. But let's try. Just write a name. I'm going to give you a minute to think about, because it has to be yours. What is the speaker? If not a speaker, a topic
Lovely, love that.
that you would like us to include in next year's.
Does everybody have a
Motse.
card?
You can take the suggestion card and then write and then give it to anybody.
All right. Suggestion cards are available.
Those idea cards. Speaker, topic that you would like to see covered.
You can write the president, guys.
Cool.
You can write the president.
That's gift number one.
Yeah, actually, you guys. You guys are very close to the president, so.
Cool. Right, thanks. Okay.
Wow.
Did you say no family?
And we'll ask you next year who suggested this person that you really think is going to add value to this conversation. No, I'm already speaking for free. No, I don't need to pay anyone. Like, we already got it. The second gift on a different card. Okay. Upstairs, we're doing a lot of work in research. Can you suggest a research question that we think is important for the ecosystem, but it's not yet answered or answered adequately or answered in the African or South African context? What do you want to know? It's a different one. So the first one, please, as we do the cards, please pass them on. We'll paste them for you. What is a research question that if we answered, it will also really help your organization, to help you tremendously, but you really need some other people to invest in ensuring that research happens?
You can pass the cards down or to one of the team members wearing a Motse shirt. Thanks. Nomfundo is saying, Zim, thanks for all the work.
Yes. The last question, this one is, we're going to give the gift to Nomfundo. This is my last one, 4 gifts. Outside Gauteng in the Western Cape, which province do you think we should host this next?
Ooh, oh, that's good.
And KZN, outside those 3, because we've been those 3. Okay, outside where we've been already, KZN, Western Cape, Gauteng. Which province do you think we need to go to? Mauritius. Province, is that a province? Kathy.
She's looking for a free holiday there.
Right. As you complete the cards, pass them down. Last but not least, I know I've been saying last. Last but not least, no, this is not, yeah. Which organization you want to see in the room? It could be a government rep, could be another organization that's along the road that you work with in the ecosystem, but people that you think we need to reach out to them and make sure that they are part of this, an organization we might not know about in the ecosystem. Please write that down. Hey, Nomfundo is like, guys.
Organization
with
in
my entire team.
Organization you want to see here.
Organization.
Here. Our prisoners at the top, do you want a card? Okay, you're fine.
Our prisoners. Okay. So I asked about a speaker, asked about a research question, and by the way, that speaker could be you, right? Like you feel like, yeah, I think you gotta have me on that panel. There's nothing wrong with that.
Self-promote.
So yeah, it could be you.
Put me in, coach.
Sorry?
Put me in, coach.
Wena uqala ama-recipe awawazi ukuthi. Okay. Now I'm closing, and I didn't want to take. Firstly, thank you so very much for honoring our invitation and investing the past 2 days with us. I do know that it is such a. Firstly, it's October. We're tired. We've been working hard the entire year, and you having to take 2 days out of your work, your organization, reporting, writing proposals, wrapping up programs, whatever that is, it's really, really appreciated. And we want you to know that we value your time, we take this work seriously, and we want to know how might we support this ecosystem together so that we can reduce the size of the problem. That's what it's all about. It's about reducing the size of the problem. Secondly, we want to encourage you, take all the resources, the links, and use them abundantly, freely, the canvas that Victor shared, bring people together. There is no IP on anything that we do. Anything that we do, we share. We've asked people to share. Is for all of us to be able to use together. So I'm going to ask you to not to wait, but to actually just, as Mzwa will say, just
start.
Just start. Just start. Just start where you are. Start with what you have. And let's remember what Victor said this morning. We are the Davids. This problem may look like a Goliath, but we are the Davids. And then lastly, I wanted to close with this quote from our founder. And they're going to put it up on screen. Yeah, and also if you did not, if you were not able to write the name of your organization, where you are, it's important to please complete the map at the back, because this is where we all collaborate and get to understand who's who in the ecosystem. And next year, I'm going to be handing over the reins to others who will be driving all of this smooth thing to say which provinces and where we are going. Right. So,
no, it's popcorn.
Just at the end, part of what Mr. Gray said in 1984, it is believed that growing economic disparities within society threaten the very survival of free enterprise system, which has been successful in raising living standards worldwide. And it behoves the few that it rewards particularly well to invest in improving the welfare of fellow citizens so that they may realize their full potential. As in a class where people were talking about donut economics and ESG and all of that, and I said, Ellen Gray has 2,000 employees worldwide. About 500 of those, we are all in philanthropy. So someone was asking about social entrepreneurship. And my response would have been, I don't think Africa can afford any other type of entrepreneurship. Because our entrepreneurship is not entrepreneurship for its sake, but because we understand that umntu gumuntu ngabantu. So thank you so much, and to everybody who's made this possible. Give it up for our media team. Our restaurant team that's not here. You can see the bags that are coming from We the People. Give it up to Lady K, and everyone is organized. People that made coffee. And I did want to really, really talk about the importance of us supporting the ecosystem. So I decided to wear my shoes from Drip, my dress from Cheaper Streetwear, and my bag from Somewhere Ekasi. Let's make sure that the money remains in circulation. My team is going to ask me, what do I mean? But I won't tell them, but I'll say again, amaqobokazana ngalala endleleni yazini kunyembelekile. Enkosi.
Beautiful. So I,
Stunning.
I definitely need subtitles there. Zinhle, help me.
Start with saying amaqobokazana. Let me hear you say that. Amaqobokazana.
Amaqobokazana.
Okay, Chomi. I've got a bit more mentorship to do.
Yeah.
So allow me to, by next year's gathering, we'll have this down. We'll
Yeah.
have this down. Fantastic. Now I don't want to close.
It's
You
the
do
end.
it. I don't want to do it. You do it.
Sure, thank you
Yeah, you
all.
did.
We're going to do one very quick thing. But can we just give a shout out to Zinhle for doing such an amazing job?
Thank you, my friend. Shout out to you.
Very well done.
Shout out to you, sidekick.
Pleasure to be your sidekick.
Sidekick.
I'm now taking bookings. If you could quickly just complete the survey that's going to come up on the screen. As I mentioned, it just really allows us to get better every year. Rate our service. Tell us where we can get better.
Yeah.
Data literally helps us drive better decision making, and we want to ensure that you have a great experience. But also give shout outs. If there's something we did extremely well, do comment, like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube.
And keep the conversations going, guys, whether it's on socials, whether it's in your communities, whether it's in your spaces. Tell someone else about the gathering.
Yes.
Recordings are available of the sessions. This was streamed on YouTube, but there were also the 2 breakaway sessions that weren't streamed live, but those are recorded. So if you missed one because you had to choose, and it was very hard to choose the other one, know that those recordings are available. Just want to check with the team where those will be, where those links will be posted, or will that be on the website?
Probably
where people can access those?
On
the website. Okay, go through the website. Probably in the next few days, you'll be able to access those, and let's continue the conversation. Read the book that you received today. Put some reviews up. Give your thoughts about it. Connect with someone. If you haven't connected yet, again, go to the back. Even take a picture of the map, okay? And then you'll decide later tomorrow who you want to call or who you want to get in touch with.
And shout out
You
to
don't
all
have
our
to take-
speakers. Can we give them a round of applause that on panels?
Especially because these lights are bright. I don't think you guys can see from where you're sitting. These lights are really bright. So if our speakers could sit through that outside of the tough questions. We really, really appreciate you all. We really appreciate the heart with which you've approached the past 2 days, with which you've all come with an openness to share, an openness to learn, an openness to connect, and an openness to take that inspired thought into action, into the spaces in which you all operate, into the corners of the world that you all have influence over. There's I promise I won't preach, there's a scripture I like that says, creation is waiting and groaning for the sons of God to realize who they are, to be revealed, is what another version says. And it's in spaces like these where we realize who we are and the job that we have. We are revealed, and we are then able to go and help creation in its groaning and in its suffering and in its need for the work that needs to be done. So I want to thank you all.
Yes.
I have certainly learned a lot from every single one of you. Thank you very, very much for having me as part of this gathering. Thank you to Team AGGPSA for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
You're stuck with me now for the rest of your lives. I have the pants to prove it. I mean, have you ever had another MC who came with pants that look like your branding? Guys, keep me. But it's been an absolute, absolute honor, not only just because of the great team that I've been able to work with, but because of the great work that you do with all of your hands, your hearts, and your great minds that are in the room. So thank you for not only being great thinkers, but also great carers of this country and this continent and the work that we have to do here.
Absolutely, and one of the values that we saw from Victor Wong was this value of generosity.
Yeah.
That in rainforests and ecosystems that thrive, there is a level of generosity. So my encouragement is that we don't compete. From today, we collaborate.
Yeah.
We share. We connect one another. If there's a funding opportunity that suits someone else better than you, you share those links.
Yeah.
We engage with one another to create the ecosystem and the rainforest we want. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
We're going to end off with a beautiful, the same way we started, through poetry from Lufefe Boss and our percussionist, Kamalfa. And then for those who didn't have an opportunity to be part of the guided tour, there is another opportunity to be part of the guided tour
Yay.
where you go around Constitutional Hill. Beautiful way to end off the day. But can we give a big round of applause to Lufefe and our percussionist, Kamalfa.
Woo!
Molwe, Miandiv. My name is Lufefe, and I cut down the democracy tree. I did that. I cut down the democracy tree. And to tell you the truth, that was only at sunrise, when the shadows of apartheid still clung to the land, when the soul was heavy with centuries of chains, of passes, of the blood of those who died for freedom. But we said, never again. And yet, I chopped and I chopped. Through morning, through midday, through the hunger of jobs that never came, through the anger of streets where the youth still wander without work, without hope, through the whispers of corruption and the silence of dreams deferred. I cut down the tree and I gathered the fruit. I gathered it and rolled it into a circle, and I crushed it so that the juice would run loose and carry the bitterness away, to make room for seeds of courage, for shoots of justice, for the tender hands who plant again. So, Phakamani. So let us please stand, not as strangers, but as builders of one promise. Let us lift together, mend together, water the soil together until the democracy tree rises again. Its branches strong enough to shelter every child, for its fruit sweet enough for all to taste. For the story is not finished. The promise is not gone. The tree will grow if we choose together to make it so. Thank you.
Enjoy your evening, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day. AGBSA talent, if we can just jump on stage for a group photo. Don't worry, AGPSA talent. AGPSA.